I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen, she stammered, her voice thin and trembling. Is that true? I turned to my sister, anger bubbling just below the surface. Now's not the time for this, she snapped, trying to deflect. Lily, you need to come first, my voice cracked, raw and urgent. I caught myself mid-motion, hand raised, trembling in the air between us. A line I never thought I'd cross hovered so close. My breath caught, and shame poured in. I lowered my arm slowly, my chest tight with the weight of what had just almost happened. This moment, this ugly, shattering moment, would stay with me forever, a memory buried so deep I'd never let it surface. It all started with a promise to pick up my niece, Lily, from preschool, a promise forced on me by my sister. Pick her up tomorrow too, she had said the night before, her voice clipped. Why are you always so desperate? I'd snapped back. You're a stay-at-home mom, you've got the time. That's not the point, she said, brushing me off. In the background, I heard Lily's tiny, hacking cough. Is Lily sick? I asked sharply. No, she's fine, my sister replied too quickly. But she's coughing. It's nothing, look, can you just keep her for a while? For how long? A week, I'm going abroad, she said flatly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. What? My voice rose, disbelief edging into fury. I can't do that. Well, she said coldly, then I'll just leave her at the preschool. If nobody picks her up, that's on you. You're impossible, I spat. But the thought of my niece being abandoned like that forced my hand. I begrudgingly agreed, telling myself it was for Lily's sake. The next day, I got a frantic call from the preschool hours before I was meant to pick her up. Ms. Taylor, we've been trying to reach Lily's mother, but we can't get through to her. You're listed as the emergency contact. Lily collapsed at school. She's been taken to the hospital. My heart plummeted. I raced to the hospital, but when I arrived, the sight before me felt like a punch to the chest. Lily was lying there, surrounded by machines, her tiny body frail and motionless. The doctor explained that she'd been running a fever and collapsed during playtime. The preschool had called for an ambulance when they couldn't reach my sister. At the hospital, the preschool director cornered me. Her face was pale, her voice tight with barely concealed anger. You're Lily's aunt, right? Yes, I said weakly. We've tried calling her mother countless times. Her work said she's on vacation. Do you know where she is? She's overseas, I admitted, my voice barely audible. The director's eyes widened in disbelief. Overseas? She sent her child to school in this condition and then just left the country? I swallowed hard, shame burning my throat as the director recounted the day's events. Lily had come to school with a flushed face, clearly unwell. They'd checked her daily temperature sheet, something required to be filled out by parents each morning. It was blank. The preschool refused to accept Lily that morning. Her temperature was 37.8 degrees Celsius, above the 37.5 degree limit for attendance. When the staff pointed this out, they told my sister to take her home. But my sister waved off their concern with a dismissive smile. Her temperature's always a little high. It's not a problem, she insisted, brushing past the teacher. Despite their protests, she left Lily at the preschool and walked out the door. The staff tried calling her multiple times throughout the day, but her phone went unanswered. Frustrated and worried, they eventually called my parents, only to find that they weren't home. They were both at work. Desperate, the preschool dug through old records and found a year-old emergency contact number. It was mine. This should never have happened, the preschool director said, her voice trembling as she stood by Lily's hospital bed. Her usual composed demeanor had cracked under the weight of the situation, tears pooling in her eyes. I am so sorry, I whispered, guilt wrapping around me like a suffocating blanket. I'll contact my sister. I apologized again to the director and the chaperone before they reluctantly left to return to the school. Immediately, I dialed my sister's number. The line was dead. I tried again, and again, dozens of calls, hundreds, each one unanswered. I called my parents, explaining the situation in hurried, broken sentences. They rushed to the hospital as fast as they could, my mother clutching her phone like a lifeline. It's okay, she said over and over, though it sounded like she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. Lily's going to be okay. We're at the hospital. Everything will be fine. But it wasn't fine. The doctors tried everything they could, but Lily's condition only worsened. Her tiny body, so full of life just days before, began to fail her. I kept calling my sister, desperation mounting with every unanswered ring, but no matter how many times I tried, there was only silence on the other end. 2 days later, that fragile little life slipped away. Lily, only 2 years old, passed without her mother's touch, without her mother's presence. How could something so cruel, so heartless, happen? I couldn't stop the tears. They poured freely, blurring the sterile walls of the hospital around me. The grief was unbearable, a heavy weight pressing against my chest, and no amount of apologies or explanations would ever bring her back. As I touched Lily's cold, fragile body, a wave of guilt washed over me. Why didn't I ask my sister where she was going? Why didn't I stop her from leaving? I couldn't stop the questions from swirling in my mind, each one a blade of blame cutting deeper into my heart. "It's not your fault," my mother whispered, her voice barely audible over my sobs, but even as she said the words, tears streamed down her face, matching my grief in their depth. I tried over and over to reach my husband, to tell him what had happened, but his phone was unreachable, just like everyone else. Time dragged on, each moment heavier than the last. In the end, I arranged my niece's funeral without a word from my sister. The day of the funeral came, and my sister finally called. I had my phone with me, though I hadn't expected to answer it. The monks were chanting as I sat there, staring at Lily's small, lifeless form. My phone buzzed, and I answered it without thinking. "Oh, hey, thanks for taking care of Lily," my sister's voice chirped from the other end, casual as ever. "I just landed at the airport. On my way home. What do you want as a souvenir?" I froze. "You." I choked out, rage and disbelief suffocating my words. What is it?" "I can't hear you," she said, irritated. What are you doing?" My voice cracked, sharp and full of fury. The monks chanting halted as my words rang through the room. "Huh? What's with the attitude?" she asked, completely oblivious to the devastation around her. You took a child's life," I shouted, unable to hold back any longer. "Lily, she died. Do you even have the faintest idea how lonely she was? This isn't funny, we're not laughing." The silence that followed felt suffocating. I took several deep breaths, trying to compose myself. "I'm in the middle of Lily's funeral. Get back here as soon as you can," I said through clenched teeth, before hanging up. I apologized to the monks for disrupting their chant, but one of them gently placed his hand on my head, offering silent comfort. Later, as we prepared to leave for the crematorium, my sister arrived, out of breath and frantic. Behind her was my husband, looking equally disoriented. I couldn't believe my eyes. "Why is he here?" My sister collapsed by Lily's side, her sobs filling the air. Why did this happen?" she cried, but no one responded to her. My relatives stood around her, cold and silent, but none of them said a word to place blame. I think they were sparing Lily, even now. I didn't speak to either of them until after the cremation. It felt as though Lily was waiting for her mother, though she would never get that chance. Once the cremation was done, we returned to my parents' house. My sister took the brunt of my parents' anger. I sat in silence, listening to their accusations until my gaze fell on the luggage near the door. Why were they both carrying luggage from the same airport? I noticed the airline sticker on the handle of each suitcase. They had come from the same place? My sister clamped her mouth shut, refusing to speak, but my husband finally broke the silence. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice flat. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Is that true?" I asked my sister, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked away, her silence louder than words. "Then what?" I pressed. "Is this really the time for your excuses? You have to put Lily first," I demanded, my voice shaking with a mixture of grief and fury. I raised my hand, but I froze before it could land on either of them. My anger wasn't about their betrayal, it was about what they had done to my niece. It was something I couldn't forgive, no matter what. "Stop crying, you don't have the right to shed tears," I spat, my voice trembling with rage. "You ignored hundreds of calls from me. Why is it so hard to think something could have happened to your own child, while you two were wrapped up in your own selfish affairs? Lily was suffering, she died, and it's because of you. You'll never be forgiven for this. You should die a slow, agonizing death for what you did." "I'm sorry," my sister murmured, her voice breaking, but I could hear the emptiness in her words. "Do you think that apology makes up for what you did? Do you think this is your penance to Lily? You're lying to yourself. You're just as guilty as he is. You ignored my calls, too. You left my niece to die, and you're just as responsible. Go to hell. My parents didn't stop me, they stood in silence, watching the destruction unfold, but they didn't intervene. Don't you ever show your face here again. You're not my daughter anymore. My mother's voice cracked as she spoke, but her words were resolute. I can't forgive you. Get out, now. Why? Why am I the only one to blame for all of this? I don't even consider you my family anymore. My sister left, her face pale, without even a glance at Lily's remains. We would discuss her divorce later. My husband stood there, motionless, his guilt written all over his face. He didn't speak, but he handed over everything, our shared assets, the alimony, settling everything with a cold finality. The divorce was quick, just as empty as his apology. You think this is your atonement? You think this will wash away your sins? Fool, you'll carry them with you for the rest of your life. My sister and my husband were both charged with child abuse. They fought their cases, but no one stood with them, not even the court-appointed attorneys. My parents and I spoke nothing but the truth. In the end, my sister received a 5-year sentence. My husband, who had known about Lily's fever and still let her go to preschool, was sentenced to 2 years. 5 years and 2 years. How is a life worth only 7 years? The emptiness in my chest deepened. These two would never see the light of day again. 6 years have passed since that day. I remarried and gave birth to a beautiful child, though I'll never forget Lily. It's my child who has slowly healed my heart. I want to be the mother I always dreamed of being, one who is always there, no matter what. They say sin never truly goes away. It follows you, a shadow that will never leave. And they will carry it with them for the rest of their lives. But even that isn't enough. Because human life is precious, and nothing can bring Lily back.
The text message glared at me from my phone screen. Miss Hall, please come to my office immediately. My stomach dropped. In 5 years at Morgan and Pierce, I'd never been summoned like this by Fernando. I'm Isla, and until today, I was a senior account manager who prided herself on perfect performance reviews. The corridor to Fernando's office felt longer than usual, each step echoing my racing heartbeat. His face was stone cold when I entered. Sit down, Isla. Is everything okay? I asked, though clearly it wasn't. We received a disturbing call this morning. Fernando's fingers drummed on his desk. A woman claiming to be your sister informed us about your alleged substance abuse problem and frequent theft of office supplies. My world stopped spinning. What? She provided detailed accounts of witnessing you stealing company property and attending client meetings while intoxicated. He slid a paper across his desk. Given the severity of these allegations, we have no choice but to terminate your employment, effective immediately. Fernando, this is insane. My voice cracked. My sister, Victoria? He nodded grimly. She seemed very concerned about your welfare. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone calling Victoria. She answered on the third ring, her voice syrupy sweet. Hey, sis, what's up? Why did you call my office? I demanded, my voice echoing in Fernando's silent office. Oh, that, she giggled. That's just a little prank. Come on, you're always so serious about everything. Lighten up. A prank? I just got fired. Wait, what? No way. I thought they'd just give you a warning or something. Don't be dramatic. Fernando watched me with a mixture of pity and discomfort as I ended the call. I can prove she's lying, I pleaded. Check the security cameras, talk to my colleagues. Asla, he cut me off. Regardless of the truth, this has created a liability issue. The board has made their decision. Security will escort you to clear your desk. Walking past my colleagues' concerned faces, box in hand, I felt numb. 5 years of dedication ended because of my sister's idea of a joke. My phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Sorry if you're mad, but maybe this is good timing for a career change. You were getting kind of boring anyway. Back home, I sat on my couch, staring at the family photo on my wall. Victoria beamed from the centre, as always, while I stood awkwardly at the edge. The golden child and the responsible one, roles we'd played since childhood. My phone rang. Mum. Isla, honey, Victoria told me what happened, she said, not bothering with hello. You really should learn to take a joke better. She didn't mean any harm. Mum, I lost my job. Well, maybe it's for the best. You were working too hard anyway. Victoria says there's an opening at her friend's boutique. Wouldn't that be nice? Working together? I press my fingers against my temples. I have a master's degree in business administration. Don't be snobby, dear. Family helps family. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started updating my resume. My hands stopped shaking as determination replaced shock. Victoria had always gotten away with everything, from breaking my toys as kids to borrowing my car and crashing it in college. Our parents always dismissed her actions with, "That's just how she is." My phone pinged again. Victoria. Mum says you're being dramatic. It's not like you can't find another job. Unless you're not as smart as you think you are? I stared at her message, something shifting inside me. All these years, I'd swallowed my anger, played the bigger person, kept the peace. For what? To be sabotaged by my own sister. Opening my email, I began crafting applications to every major competitor of Morgan & Pierce. My sister wanted me to change careers. Fine, I'd change, but on my terms. Watch me, I whispered to the empty room, hitting send on the first application. Victoria had no idea what she'd just set in motion. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to let this go. I wasn't going to accept her half-hearted apology and move on. My phone buzzed again, a group chat notification. Victoria was already spinning her version of events to our brother, Quinn, and our parents. I muted the chat and instead opened LinkedIn, connecting with every industry contact I had. They thought I was the boring, predictable one? Perfect. They'd never see it coming when I finally showed them exactly what their dramatic sister was capable of. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud and messy. It's calculated, patient, and served cold. I smiled as another job application completed sending. Victoria had just taught me a valuable lesson. Family doesn't always mean loyalty. And I was about to teach her one in return. Tell me why you're interested in joining Stewart & Associates. Larry Ford leaned back in his chair, studying me across his mahogany desk. 2 weeks after Victoria's prank, I sat in an office twice the size of Fernando's, interviewing for a position that made my old job look entry-level. My former colleague Sarah had recommended me the moment she heard what happened. Honestly, I met his gaze. Because I want to prove something. Larry's eyebrow raised. Oh, I was fired from Morgan & Pierce due to false allegations. Instead of fighting it, I want to show them exactly what they lost. I pulled out my portfolio. These are the accounts I managed, their growth rates, and client satisfaction scores. He flipped through the pages, nodding slowly. Impressive, but why not pursue legal action? Because success is better than litigation. I smiled. Plus, I've heard Stewart & Associates is planning to target Morgan & Pierce's biggest client, Riverside Corp. I know their account inside out. Larry's eyes sparkled with interest. You've done your homework. Always do. He closed my portfolio. The position pays double what Morgan & Pierce offered, plus performance bonuses. When can you start? Walking out of Stewart & Associates, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. My phone buzzed, the family group chat exploding as usual. Mum, Quinn needs help with his car payments again. Everyone pitch in. Victoria, I'm broke. Sorry, bro. Dad, your mother and I already helped last month. Quinn, come on guys, I'll pay everyone back. I was about to mute the chat again when a private message from Victoria popped up. Hey sis, heard you had a big interview today. Mum's worried you're aiming too high. Don't want you getting disappointed again. My thumbs hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed, actually, I got the job. Double my old salary. 3 dots appeared immediately. OMG! No way! That's amazing! Hey, random question. Could you help me with rent this month? Just until my commission comes through. Before I could respond, the group chat exploded again. Mum: Isla got a new job. Much better pay. Quinn: Seriously? Sis, you're holding out on us. Dad: That's wonderful, sweetheart. Speaking of which, your mother and I are planning to renovate the kitchen. My phone rang. Quinn: Hey, superstar, he said smoothly. So, about that car payment. Quinn: I haven't even started the job yet. Come on, you know I'm good for it. Remember when I covered for you that time you stayed out past curfew? We were teenagers, and you made me do your homework for a month in exchange. Details. Family helps family, right? I walked into my apartment, dropping my keys on the counter. Funny, where was that family spirit when Victoria got me fired? Ancient history. She feels terrible about that. Besides, it worked out better for you, didn't it? So, really, you should be thanking her. I nearly choked. Thanking her? Yeah. See, everything happens for a reason. So, about that loan. I'll think about it, I said, ending the call. My laptop sat open on my coffee table, still displaying the email confirmation from Stewart & Associates. Next to it lay a notebook where I'd started drafting those letters. One for each family member. Letters I'd been too scared to send. My phone buzzed again. Victoria had sent a screenshot of my new company to the group chat. Victoria: Found Isla's new workplace. So fancy. Guess all those hours being a workaholic paid off. Mum: Don't be mean, dear. Isla's just lucky. Quinn: Lucky enough to help her favourite brother. Dad: We should celebrate. Isla can treat us to dinner at that new steakhouse downtown. I picked up my pen and pulled the notebook closer. The first letter was addressed to Victoria. Dear sister, it began. Let me tell you about luck. My hand moved faster now, the words flowing easily. They thought my success meant their meal ticket had arrived. They were about to learn otherwise. Every demand for money, every dismissive comment, every backhanded compliment, it was all going into these letters. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, but I ignored them. Let them plan their celebrations and count money they wouldn't see. Let them think I was still their pushover sister, daughter, meal ticket. The truth would arrive in their mailboxes soon enough. I looked at the family photo still hanging on my wall. Tomorrow it would come down. Sometimes the hardest part of standing up for yourself is standing up to family. But as I wrote those letters, I realised something. Blood might be thicker than water, but ink would be thicker than both. Just a small loan, sweetheart, Mum said, stirring her coffee at our weekly breakfast meet-up. Your father and I have always supported you. I nearly choked on my avocado toast. Supported me? Like when Victoria crashed my car and you made me share hers instead of making her replace it. Ancient history, Mum waved her hand dismissively. Besides, you were always so rigid about your things. Sharing is caring. Mum, I was working 2 jobs to pay for that car. And look how that taught you responsibility. Now you're successful. She beamed. Speaking of success, the kitchen renovation would only be about 20,000. My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. That's a lot of money. Well, Victoria can't help. She's an artist. You know how unstable that income is. And Quinn has his car payments. I set my cup down harder than necessary. What about my student loans? Oh, honey, Mum patted my hand. You chose to go to that expensive university. Nobody forced you. The memory hit me like a slap. 17-year-old me clutching my acceptance letter, while Mum consoled a crying Victoria who hadn't gotten in. Maybe you should go to community college first, Mum had suggested. Keep Victoria company. My phone buzzed. Quinn. Hey, sis, about that car payment. Getting some nasty calls from the bank. I turned my phone face down. Mum, I need to get to work. Already? But we haven't discussed the kitchen. Your father's getting estimates this afternoon. At the office, Larry stopped by my desk. Isla, the Riverside court meeting went better than expected. They're considering moving their entire portfolio to us. That's fantastic. It's all thanks to your insight. There's a substantial bonus coming your way. My computer dinged with an email from Victoria. Hey sis, heard about your bonus from Mum? She ran into Larry's wife at yoga. Quick favour, my art supplies store is having a massive sale. Could really use some sister support. I opened my drawer, pulling out the letters I'd brought to work. Each one contained years of carefully documented incidents, dates, amounts borrowed and never repaid. Victoria's was the thickest. My phone rang. Dad. Princess, great news. Contractor can start the kitchen next week. Just need you to transfer the deposit. Dad, I haven't agreed to... Your mother said you were on board. We've already picked out the fixtures. Premium stuff. Only the best for our dream kitchen. Dad, got to run. Contractor needs the deposit by Friday. Love you, Princess. I hung up and stared at the letters. Another message popped up from Quinn. Banks threatening repossession. Need 3K by tomorrow. You're my only hope. Memories flooded back. Quinn borrowing my college fund for his failed startup. Victoria accidentally spilling wine on my interview suit, then offering her old cocktail dress as a replacement. Mum and Dad remortgaging the house to fund Victoria's art gallery, which closed 3 months later. Larry appeared again. Isla, you okay? Just family stuff. He nodded knowingly. Sometimes the hardest business decisions involve family. Remember what I always say? Professional boundaries protect personal relationships, I quoted. Exactly. He smiled. By the way, the bonus hits your account tomorrow. After he left, I opened my email and created a new folder labelled Family Financial Requests. I forwarded every demanding message, every guilt trip, every manipulation tactic. Each one went into the folder, dated and categorised. My phone buzzed again. The family group chat was discussing dinner plans, at an expensive restaurant, naturally. On my tab, obviously. Victoria, Isla's buying, time to celebrate her bonus. Mum, perfect, I'll make reservations for 8, bringing your father's golf friends too. Quinn, count me in. Sis, can you spot me some cash for a new shirt? Can't show up looking broke. I picked up the letters again, adding a final paragraph to each one. Then I pulled out fresh envelopes, addressing them carefully. Victoria's art supply store receipt from last month. For designer handbags, not art supplies. Quinn's bank statements showing gambling transactions. Mum's yoga membership cost more than my monthly student loan payment. Everything would be exposed. Every lie, every manipulation, every double standard. My hand shook slightly as I sealed the last envelope. Part of me wanted to shred them all, keep the peace, play my assigned role. But as I looked at my phone, still buzzing with entitled demands, I knew peace had always been an illusion. I stood up, letters in hand, ready to walk to the mailroom. They wanted my money. They'd get my truth instead. Sometimes the most expensive thing in life is letting people take you for granted. I was done paying that price. The postal worker raised an eyebrow at my stack of certified letters. Need signatures for delivery? Yes, I said firmly. I need to know exactly when they receive these. Back at my desk, I stared at the tracking numbers, my heart racing. 4 letters, 4 bombs of truth, ticking their way through the postal system. My phone lit up, Victoria calling. Hey, sis! Her voice dripped honey. About dinner tonight. I can't make it. I kept my voice neutral. Deadline at work. But Mum already made reservations. Everyone's coming. Quinn's bringing his new girlfriend. Dad's golf buddies. All these people were invited to celebrate my bonus, I said, but nobody asked me first. Don't be difficult, Victoria sighed. Family celebrates together. Oh, and could you transfer me some cash before dinner? My card's being weird. I checked the tracking numbers again. Her letter would arrive tomorrow. Sorry, Vic, I've got a meeting. I hung up before she could protest. Larry stopped by my desk. Everything all right? You seem distracted. Just handling some long overdue correspondence. He nodded thoughtfully. The Riverside Core transfer is almost complete. Fernando from Morgan and Pierce called this morning, quite upset about losing their biggest client. I smiled despite myself. Did he mention anything else? Just that letting you go was their biggest mistake this year. Larry grinned. I didn't tell him it was their biggest mistake this decade. My computer pinged with an email from Quinn. Sis, emergency. Banks threatening legal action. Need help now. Also, can't make dinner unless you spot me some cash for a new shirt. Don't tell Mom. I opened my drafts folder and began typing. Dear Quinn, can't make dinner. Dealing with my own financial obligations. Student loans, rent, basic adult responsibilities. You should try it sometime. Isla. My phone buzzed, Mum. Isla Marie, what's this about not coming to dinner? I already told everyone about your bonus. Mum, you can't just... Victoria's devastated. She bought a new dress, specially. With what money? She just told me her card wasn't working. That's different. She's creative with money. You're the responsible one. I checked the tracking numbers again. Mum's letter was already out for delivery. I have to go, Mum. Big meeting. Don't you dare hang up on... I ended the call and switched my phone to silent. The first letter would be delivered any minute now. Opening my desk drawer, I pulled out copies of everything I'd sent. Bank statements showing Quinn's gambling debts, screenshots of Victoria's luxury purchases while claiming poverty, parents' credit card statements revealing their reckless spending. My computer dinged again. Dad this time. Princess, your mother's upset. Call her immediately. P.S. Contractor needs that deposit today. I drafted another email. Dear Dad, no deposit, no dinner, no more enabling. Check your mailbox. Isla. Larry appeared again. Isla, got a minute? Board wants to discuss your promotion. Promotion? The Riverside account's just the beginning. We're thinking junior partner. My phone screen lit up with texts. Mum, Isla Marie, answer your phone. Quinn, banks sending collectors. Victoria, can't believe you're bailing on dinner? So selfish. Dad, called contractor, he's waiting. I silenced them all and followed Larry to the conference room. Behind me, my computer showed the tracking update I'd been waiting for. Delivered, signed by Hazel Hall. The first letter had arrived. I sat through the board meeting in a strange calm, discussing strategy and growth projections while imagining Mom opening that envelope. By now, she'd be reading about every time she'd dismissed my achievements, every double standard, every manipulation. My phone kept lighting up, but I didn't check it. Let them read. Let them realise. Let them face their own reflections in the mirror I'd crafted from years of receipts, screenshots, and carefully documented lies. Back at my desk, I had 37 missed calls and counting. The second letter would arrive within hours. Dad's turn to face the truth. Larry stopped by one last time. Everything okay? Your phone's been buzzing non-stop. Just family learning some hard lessons about accountability. He nodded sagely. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is stop protecting people from the consequences of their own actions. I glanced at my silent phone, imagining the chaos unfolding at my parents' house. Tomorrow, Victoria and Quinn would get their letters. The full set would be complete. The truth was in the mail, and there was no returning to sender. The first voicemail came at 6:43 a.m. Mum's voice trembled with rage. "How dare you? How dare you keep records like some accountant? We're your family." I deleted it and sipped my coffee, watching the sunrise from my apartment window. The second letter would reach Dad any minute now. My phone buzzed again. Quinn this time. "Mom's having a meltdown. What did you do?" Before I could respond, Victoria's message popped up. "OMG, you're actually insane. Mum's crying. Dad's not speaking. Is this because I didn't get you a birthday present last year? So petty." The tracking app updated. Delivered, signed by Axel Hall. My office phone rang. Larry's name flashed on the display. "Isla? Your mother's in the lobby." My stomach dropped. "What? Should I have security escort her out?" "No, I'll handle it." I grabbed my laptop and headed downstairs. Mom stood in the middle of the lobby, clutching my letter, her yoga outfit clashing with the corporate atmosphere. "You ungrateful child." "Mum, this is my workplace." "Oh, now you're embarrassed? After sending this manifesto of lies?" I guided her toward a quiet corner. "Everything in that letter is true. I have proof." "Proof?" She waved the papers. "You kept receipts from 10 years ago. Who does that?" "Someone who knew this day would come. Your father can't even look at me. 23 years of marriage, and he never knew about the secret credit cards. Or the second mortgage you took out for Victoria's gallery." Her face reddened. "She needed that opportunity. And I needed my college fund that Quinn gambled away. Funny how my needs never seemed urgent enough." "We raised you better than this," she hissed. "Family doesn't keep score." "No, family doesn't play favourites. Family doesn't gaslight. Family doesn't..." My phone buzzed. Dad's message appeared. "Your mother's hysterical. Fix this, now." Another notification. Victoria's letter had been delivered. Mum's phone chimed. She checked it and went pale. "Victoria's threatening to move to Europe. See what you've done?" "Let me guess. She needs money for the plane ticket." "She's sensitive, creative. You've always been jealous of her spirit." Security was watching us now. I lowered my voice. "Mum, go home. Read the letter again. Really read it." "I will not." "Mrs. Hall," Larry appeared beside us. "I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to leave. We're about to start a board meeting." Mum straightened her yoga pants. "Of course. My daughter's very important now. Too important for family." As security escorted her out, my phone exploded with notifications. Victoria had posted on social media. "Some people can't handle others' success. Booking a one-way ticket to Paris. Need support from real family." Quinn replied immediately. "This is messed up, sis. But since you're burning bridges, can I get that loan before you go nuclear? Bank's seriously on my case." Dad sent a simple text. "Your mother's blood pressure is your responsibility now." I walked back to my office, hands shaking slightly. Larry followed. "Family drama?" "Something like that. Take the afternoon off if you need it, but first..." He smiled. "The board approved your promotion. Junior partner, effective immediately." My phone buzzed again. Victoria. "OMG, just got your psycho letter. Recording everything for my lawyer. Hope you're happy now that you've destroyed this family. PS. Still need help with art supplies if you're done being crazy." I declined the call and turned to Larry. "Actually, I think I'll stay. We have that strategy meeting at 2, right?" He nodded approvingly. That's why you're partner material. You know how to prioritize. Back at my desk, I opened my email to find 67 new messages from family members. Subject lines ranged from, "How could you?" to, "Before you cut me off completely." The final tracking update appeared. Quinn's letter had arrived. Within minutes, the family group chat exploded. Victoria. She exposed everything. My shopping, Quinn's gambling, Mom's secret cards. Quinn. Those bank statements were private. This is illegal. Mum. We need to meet, all of us, tonight. Dad. Agreed. Isla, you will be there. I typed a single response. No. Then I muted the chat, turned off my phone, and opened the file for the strategy meeting. Let them rage. Let them threaten. Let them finally face the mirrors I'd spent years polishing. The truth was out, and I had a meeting to prepare for. They taught me well, after all. Family always comes first. They just never expected me to put myself first for once. My computer dinged with one final email from Victoria. Fine, I'm really booking that ticket to Paris now. Hope you're happy. I smiled and clicked delete. Some threats solved themselves. The pounding on my apartment door started at 8 p.m. sharp. Isla Marie, open this door right now, Mum's voice carried through the hallway. I took a deep breath and turned the lock. They all burst in. Mum, Dad, Victoria, with mascara-stained cheeks, and Quinn, looking unusually sober. Family intervention, Victoria announced dramatically, waving a printed copy of her letter. We're here to discuss your mental breakdown. Sit down, Dad commanded, his golf tan stark against his white-knuckled grip on his own letter. I remained standing. No. Listen here, young lady, Mum started. No, you listen. I pulled out my phone. Should I play the voicemails from the loan companies looking for Quinn? Or maybe Victoria's credit card companies? Quinn shifted uncomfortably. Those records were private. Like my college fund was private, before you borrowed it. That was different, Mum interjected. He had a business opportunity. It was gambling debts, I said flatly, just like the money he's asking for now. Quinn's face reddened. You don't know? I have the bank statements, Quinn. Every casino withdrawal. Victoria jumped up. Well, what about my reputation? My followers are worried sick. I had to tell them I'm taking a mental health break in Paris. With what money? I asked. The art supply store called. Your credit card bounced again. See? Mum gestured wildly. She needs our help. Family helps family. No, Mum. Family doesn't exploit family. Family doesn't... Oh, spare us the lecture, Victoria interrupted. Just because you got lucky with some corporate job. Lucky? I laughed. I worked 60-hour weeks while you were finding yourself on my credit card. I paid you back. With bounced checks. Dad cleared his throat. Princess, about the kitchen renovation? The kitchen is fine, Dad. Your golf membership, however, that's different. I need to network. Network? I pulled out more papers. Is that what you call losing 10,000 in club gambling last month? The room went silent. Mum turned to Dad, mouth open. You said that money went to Quinn's car. Well, Dad tugged at his collar. Quinn jumped up. Wait, I got blamed for that. Sit down, Mum shouted. This is all Isla's fault. Keeping records like some spy? No, a quiet voice said. Everyone turned. It was Quinn. She's right, Victoria gasped. Traitor! No, look! Quinn ran his hands through his hair. I do have a gambling problem. The bank's not just threatening, they're pressing charges. Mum rushed to him. Baby, why didn't you say? Because you always fix everything. He stepped away from her. But Isla's right. It has to stop. Victoria jumped up. This is ridiculous. Quinn, don't let her manipulate you. Says the sister who got me fired for a prank, I countered. That was months ago. Get over it. Like you got over not getting into my university. Is that why you sabotage everything I achieve? I don't. Victoria stopped, tears forming. I'm not. I just what? Just destroyed my career? Just maxed out my credit cards? I'm jealous, okay? She burst out. You make everything look so easy. School, work, life, while I'm just failing. The room fell silent again. Mum sank onto my couch, letter crumpling in her hands. We really are horrible, aren't we? She whispered. Dad stood up straighter. Now, let's not get carried away. No, look at these letters. Mum spread them out. Every manipulation, every guilt trip, every double standard. We did this, all of it. Victoria wiped her eyes, smearing mascara further. The prank wasn't supposed to... To what? I asked quietly. To hurt me, to derail my life, to make yourself feel better. Quinn picked up his letter. We need help, real help, not money, actual professional help. Therapy? Victoria scoffed, then paused. Actually, maybe. Mum looked up at me. You kept these records all these years. You knew this day would come. I hoped it wouldn't. Dad cleared his throat again. The contractor, I should probably cancel. Probably, I agreed. They left one by one. Quinn first, clutching a business card for a gambling addiction counsellor. Victoria next, makeup completely ruined, mumbling about cancelling her Paris posts. Dad slipped out quietly, already on the phone with his golf club. Mom lingered at the door. We really messed up, didn't we? Yes. Can we fix this? I looked at her steadily. That depends. Are you ready to actually change? She nodded slowly, then left without another word. I closed the door behind them, listening to their footsteps fade. Sometimes the hardest conversations are the most necessary ones, and sometimes the truth, however painful, is the only path to healing. 3 weeks after the confrontation, Mum called an emergency family meeting at their house. I almost didn't go, but Quinn's text convinced me. Things are different, promise. Walking into my childhood home, I immediately noticed changes. The designer furniture Mum had bought on credit was gone, replaced by their old comfortable pieces. Dad's golf trophies had vanished from the mantel. Victoria sat in the corner, unusually subdued, scrolling through her phone. Look, she said as I entered, holding up the screen. She'd posted, "Time to get real with my followers. No more fake Paris plans. Starting therapy and facing my truth. Authentic life, sector harsh at growth." Quinn arrived next, carrying a folder of papers. First NA meeting was yesterday, he said quietly. Should have done this years ago. Mum and Dad emerged from the kitchen, carrying coffee cups instead of their usual wine glasses. Sit, everyone, Mum said, her yoga designer outfit replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. We need to talk about changes. Dad cleared his throat. I've sold my golf club membership, paid off some of our credit cards. And I've cancelled my spa memberships, Mum added. We're seeing a financial advisor. Victoria looked up from her phone. I got a real job, like with actual hours and everything. Doing what? I asked, trying to keep the skepticism from my voice. Administrative assistant at an art gallery. She managed a small smile. Not running it, just learning the business properly this time. Quinn opened his folder. I've worked out payment plans with the banks. It'll take years, but... He looked at me. I'm not asking for loans anymore, promise. We're all in therapy, Mum said. Separately, and we're starting family sessions next week. She paused. If you'd consider joining us? I sat back, studying their faces. The usual manipulation was missing from their eyes. Instead, I saw something new. accountability. I'll think about it. Dad stood up. There's something else. He walked to the hall closet and returned with a box. We found these while clearing out the credit card purchases. Inside were my old report cards, academic awards, newspaper clippings of my business competition wins, things I thought they'd never kept. We did notice, Mum said softly. We let Victoria's drama and Quinn's crises overshadow everything. It was easier than admitting we were failing as parents. Victoria moved to speak, but the doorbell interrupted. Oh, Mum looked flustered. That must be... Larry Ford walked in carrying a folder. What's he doing here? I stood up. Sit down, Isla, Larry said kindly. Your family called me last week. They wanted to understand exactly what they almost cost you. He opened the folder. Should I tell them about the partnership track you're on? The clients you've brought in? The fact that 3 other firms have tried to headhunt you? Victoria's phone dropped to her lap. Other companies want you? Your sister, Larry continued, is one of the most talented executives I've ever worked with. The prank that got her fired from Morgan & Pierce? It cost them their biggest account and their market position. Dad's face fell. We had no idea. No, you didn't. Larry turned to me. I hope you don't mind me coming. They seemed genuine in wanting to understand. Mum wiped her eyes. We were so focused on fixing everyone else's problems, we never saw how we were hurting you. I have something to say. Victoria stood up. I sabotaged you because I couldn't stand being the family failure anymore. But watching you succeed anyway, despite what I did, it made me realise I was the one holding myself back. Quinn nodded. We all were. Using you as our safety net meant we never had to grow up. Larry smiled. Well, my work here is done. Isla, take tomorrow off. I think your family has more to discuss. He headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and the board meeting about your senior partnership is next week. After he left, silence fell. Mum broke it first. We can't undo what we did, she said. But we can do better going forward. Real change, not just promises. Starting with paying our own bills, Dad added, and facing our own problems, Quinn said. Victoria stood up. And celebrating your success instead of trying to sabotage it. I looked around at their faces, genuinely remorseful, finally aware of their actions. The manipulation and entitlement had been replaced by something that looked surprisingly like growth. Okay, I said finally. I'll come to family therapy, but on one condition. Anything, Mum said quickly. We do it right this time. Complete honesty. No more secrets, no more enabling, no more guilt trips. They nodded, and for the first time in years, I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, exactly. That would take time. But possibility. The possibility of a healthier family dynamic built on truth instead of manipulation. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from seeing your own reflection in someone else's mirror. And sometimes, just sometimes, that reflection can spark real change. And that concludes our quarterly family financial review, the therapist said, closing her notebook. Quinn, excellent progress on the gambling recovery. Victoria, your savings account is growing. Mr. and Mrs. Hall, your credit card debt is nearly cleared. I sat back in my chair, watching my family's proud faces. These monthly meetings had become our new normal, a chance to hold each other accountable and celebrate real progress. Isla's turn, Mum said, but without the old demanding tone. How's the senior partnership going? Actually, I pulled out some papers. I wanted to discuss something with everyone. Victoria tensed. You're not moving away, are you? No, I smiled. I'm starting my own consulting firm. Larry's backing me as a silent partner. Instead of immediate demands for jobs or money, my announcement was met with thoughtful silence. That's incredible, Quinn said finally. You always were the entrepreneurial one. Remember her lemonade stand? Dad chuckled. She made enough to buy her own bicycle while Victoria was giving free drinks to cute boys. Victoria laughed. Actually, laughed at the memory. And Quinn kept drinking the inventory. Speaking of inventory, I continued, I'll need help with market research. Victoria, your social media expertise could be useful. Paid consultancy, of course. Proper contract and everything. Her eyes widened. You trust me? After everything? You've earned it. Your gallery work shows you've changed. Mum started to speak, probably to suggest Dad's involvement, but caught herself. That's wonderful, dear. Let us know if you need anything. Emotional support, not money, she added quickly. The therapist smiled. This is excellent progress. Shall we discuss holiday plans? Last year's boundaries worked well. Actually, Quinn spoke up, I have an announcement too. He pulled out his 9-month sobriety chip. The bank agreed to drop charges since I've stuck to the payment plan. And I'm leading a support group for other gambling addicts. Dad reached for his wallet, an old habit, then stopped himself. Instead, he simply said, I'm proud of you, son. Victoria raised her hand like a schoolgirl. My turn. The gallery offered me a promotion. Assistant manager with a real salary. No more exposure payments or commission-only tricks. That's wonderful, Mum beamed, then turned to me. Isla, remember when you said we needed to face our true reflections? You were right. These meetings, the therapy, the accountability, it saved our family. Speaking of accountability, Dad added, the house is officially mortgage-free. No more secret loans or credit cards. The therapist made a final note. This seems like a natural conclusion to our family sessions. You've all developed healthy boundaries and communication skills. Would you like to schedule follow-ups quarterly instead of monthly? We looked at each other, a silent understanding passing between us. The old dynamics were gone. No more enabler and enabled, no more golden child and scapegoat, no more manipulation and guilt. I think we're ready, I said. Outside the therapist's office, Victoria grabbed my arm. Hey, about that social media consultancy. I actually have some ideas. Real ones, not schemes. Could I pitch them to you? Over coffee, maybe? I'd like that. Quinn checked his watch. Got to run, leading a meeting tonight. Dad, need a ride to your book club? Dad nodded. The golf clubs had been replaced by a passion for reading, a much cheaper and healthier hobby. Mum hugged me, a real hug without the old passive-aggressive pat. Dinner this Sunday? I'm cooking. Nothing fancy, just family time. Sure, Mum, I'll bring dessert. As they left, I checked my phone. A message from Larry. Board approved your resignation. Ready to be your own boss? I looked up at my family getting into their separate cars, each going to their own lives, their own responsibilities, their own achievements. No more codependency, no more enabling, no more toxic patterns. Victoria turned back. Coffee tomorrow at 10? That new place on Main? Perfect. Bring those ideas. And Isla? She hesitated. Thank you. For not giving up on us, even when we deserved it. I watched them drive away, remembering the letters that had started this journey. They'd been bombs of truth, but from their explosion had grown something unexpected. A real family built on respect instead of obligation, support instead of enabling, truth instead of manipulation. My phone buzzed again. A family group chat message from Quinn. Proud of everyone today. We've come so far. Mum replied with a simple heart emoji. No guilt trip, no demands, just love. I smiled and typed, see you Sunday. Sometimes the hardest letters to write led to the best endings. And sometimes the truth, however painful, sets everyone free.
I was halfway through meal prepping for the week, chopping bell peppers with my earbuds in, when my phone started vibrating across the counter like it was possessed. Georgia. I almost didn't pick up. She only called when she needed something, or when she wanted to brag about her latest brand collab. But something in me paused, and I answered. June! Oh my God, June! Her voice cracked, frantic. It's Leo. He's really sick. We're at the hospital, and they're saying it's neurological, something rare. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I dropped the knife. What hospital? St. Francis in Glendale. They're transferring us to a specialist in Switzerland. They said it's urgent. He needs surgery, like this week. I don't have time to explain everything. It's happening so fast. Wait, back up. Switzerland? Yes, she sobbed. They don't have the tech here, or the surgeon. Insurance won't cover it. I'm trying to get a loan, but it's too slow. I need $42,000. I know it's insane, I know. Her breath hitched. But Leo could die, June. My name is June, and I've always been the one who cleaned up after my sister's disasters. I paid her rent when she got evicted. I picked her up at 2 a.m. when she got dumped on the side of the road. I even babysat Leo for 2 weeks straight when she accidentally booked overlapping influencer trips. But this was different. Have they confirmed the diagnosis? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Yes, it's called... Hold on. I heard rustling, a beep. Acute neurovascular degeneration. The doctor said it's super rare. He's in pain, June. He's 5. He doesn't understand what's happening. I pressed the speaker button and pulled up Google. Nothing came up. Are you sure that's what it's called? I don't know, okay? She snapped, then softened. I'm just scared. Please, I know you've been saving for a house, but this is Leo, my baby. I stared at the wall. My savings account sat at exactly $42,000. I'd spent 6 years building it, skipped vacations, worked overtime, lived in a shoebox apartment with peeling paint and neighbors who screamed through the walls. But Leo had nothing to do with his mother's chaos. How soon do you need it? She sniffled. Tonight. The flight's at 6 a.m. They need a deposit to admit him. I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll sell my car. I'll get a second job. I'll do anything. I hesitated. Send me the hospital's wire info. I'll transfer it directly. No, they only accept certified international wires from family, she said quickly. Just send it to me, and I'll handle it. Please, June, you're all I have. I wired the money at 9:46 p.m. that night. My hands shook the whole time. I didn't sleep. I kept picturing Leo in a hospital bed, scared and hooked up to machines. I even packed a bag, thinking I might fly out if things got worse. 3 days passed. No updates. I texted Georgia twice. No answer. On the 4th day, I opened Instagram out of habit while waiting for my coffee to brew. And there she was, Georgia, in a bright pink bikini, lounging on a yacht. The location tag, Dubai Marina. The caption, no worries, cha best life. Healing vibes. I blinked, scrolled. Another post, her sipping champagne in a gold-tiled spa. One more, shopping at the Dubai Mall, holding a Dior bag with a smug smile. My stomach flipped. I clicked her story. Manifestation is real, she said, twirling in front of a mirror. When you trust the universe, it provides. Don't let anyone tell you you can't live your dreams. I dropped my phone on the counter. My knees gave out, and I slid to the floor. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might throw up. I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I opened my texts. Still nothing. I sat there on the cold tile floor, surrounded by chopped vegetables and betrayal, and I felt something inside me crack wide open. Not just anger, not just heartbreak, something sharper. I stood up, grabbed my phone, and started taking screenshots. Every post, every story, every timestamp. If Georgia thought she could scam me, scam anyone, and walk away with a tan and a designer purse, she had no idea who she was dealing with. She wasn't the only one who could play dirty. I hadn't eaten in 2 days. My mouth was dry, my eyes burned, and I couldn't stop refreshing Georgia's Instagram. She posted again. This time she was poolside, sipping something neon green with a caption that read, "Grateful for the glow-up. Blessed, not stressed." I stared at the screen like it might catch fire in my hand. There was no hospital, no Switzerland, no surgery, just her, living it up on my life savings. I slammed my laptop shut and grabbed my keys. "Where are you going?" Cameron asked, looking up from his desk as I stormed past him at work. "Lunch." "You don't take lunch." "I do now." I drove straight to Taylor's salon. She was a mutual friend, more Georgia's than mine, but we'd known each other since high school. If anyone had details, it'd be her. The salon smelled like hairspray and eucalyptus. Taylor was at the front desk, scrolling on her phone. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked up, surprised. "June? Wow, haven't seen you in forever." "I need to ask you something about Georgia." Her smile faltered. "Okay." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. "She told me Leo needed emergency surgery. I gave her 42 grand. Then she went to Dubai." "Do you know anything about this?" Taylor's eyes widened. "Wait, what?" "She said he had some rare brain condition. I wired her everything I had." Taylor blinked. "She told me she got a donor, that it was part of her new brand journey. I thought she meant a sponsor or something." "She used her son as bait," I said flatly. "And I want to know who knew." Taylor lowered her voice. "Okay, look. A couple days ago, she came in here for a blowout before her flight. She was bragging about how she manifested the trip, said she found a way to fund it without touching her savings." I stared at her. She said, and I quote, "You just got to know how to pull heartstrings. People love a sick kid story." I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "Did you know she meant me?" I asked. Taylor shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't know you were the donor. I swear. I thought maybe it was some guy." I nodded slowly, backing away. "Thanks." "June, wait. Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I walked out and sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I needed confirmation. Real confirmation. I pulled up Aaron's number, George's ex, Leo's dad. We hadn't talked in years, not since their divorce, but I still had his contact saved. I hit call. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello?" "Aaron, it's June." A pause. "Hey, everything okay?" "Have you talked to Georgia lately?" "Not really. Just some texts about picking up Leo next weekend. Why?" "Has she told you anything about Leo being sick? Like, neurological?" Another pause. "What the hell are you talking about?" I exhaled slowly. "She called me last week, crying, said Leo needed emergency surgery in Switzerland. She said it was life or death. I gave her all my savings." "Jesus Christ!" His voice dropped. "Leo's fine. I FaceTimed him 2 nights ago. He was eating cereal and watching Paw Patrol." I closed my eyes. "She lied to me," I said. "Yeah. And she used our son to do it." He was quiet for a beat. Send me everything you have. Screenshots, texts, whatever. I will. Good, because if she thinks she can mess with my kid like that, she's got another thing coming. I hung up and started compiling everything. Screenshots, bank transfers, her texts, her posts. I built a folder on my desktop and labeled it Georgia Evidence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just worked. That night, around 11 p.m., I got a text from Georgia. Hey, sis, just checking in. Leo's doing okay, but we're still in recovery mode. Could use some extra help if you're able. Love you. I stared at it. Recovery mode? I clicked on her story. She was at a rooftop bar, laughing with some guy in a white suit. The caption, "When in Dubai," I screenshotted that too. Then I replied, "Of course. Let me know what you need." Let her think I was still playing along. Let her keep digging. Because now I had the shovel. I spent the next 3 days doing what Georgia never expected me to do. Dig. I called the hospital she claimed Leo had been admitted to in Switzerland. I found the number on Google, dialed with shaking fingers, and asked to speak to someone in patient services. "Sorry, we have no record of that name," the woman said, polite but firm, "and we do not offer the type of surgery you described." I thanked her and hung up. Then I called the hospital in Glendale, St. Francis. Same story. No record of Leo. No ER visit. No transfer. I opened my bank's website and downloaded the wire transfer receipt. The money had gone straight into Georgia's personal account. No middleman. No charity. No medical billing. I added it all to the folder. Every post, every timestamp, every lie. Then I opened a new tab and typed, "How to file a report for financial fraud involving family." The internet delivered. By the end of the night, I had submitted a detailed complaint to the local police department. I didn't expect them to jump on it. Family stuff gets messy. But it was a start. Next, I submitted an anonymous tip to Child Protective Services. I didn't lie. I told them Georgia had left Leo with various sitters while she traveled internationally, and that she used her child's name in a fake medical fundraiser. I didn't mention the money. Not yet. Then I emailed everything, every shred of evidence, to Aaron. He called me 10 minutes later. "I'm sick," he said. "Actually sick. I had no idea. She told me she was taking time to heal. I thought she meant emotionally." "She used Leo," I said. "She used me." "I'm calling my lawyer tomorrow. She's not getting him back." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "Good." He was quiet for a moment. "Thank you for telling me." She didn't leave me a choice. The next morning, I got a new text from Georgia. "Hey, babe. Things are still really rough. Leo's having some post-op issues, and the doctors say he might need a second procedure. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate, but could you help again? Maybe 10K? I'll pay you back. Promise." I stared at the screen, my hands ice cold. I typed back, "Of course. Let's meet and talk." She replied instantly, "Yes, I'm flying back tomorrow. Let's do brunch. I need a hug." I didn't answer. I called Cameron instead. "Hey," he said, chewing something. "You okay?" "I need a favor." "Name it." "I need you to help me record something, legally." He stopped chewing. "What kind of recording?" "I'm meeting Georgia. She's going to lie to my face again. I want it on tape." He exhaled. "You're serious about this?" "She asked for more money. After everything." "Jesus. I'm done being the idiot sister." He paused. "I've got a mic you can clip to your bra strap. It's small, clear audio. Perfect. We met in the office parking lot the next morning. Cameron handed me a small velvet pouch. Battery's fresh. Just press the button once. You'll feel it vibrate. Thanks. Be careful, okay? I'm not the one lying. Still, my hands were shaking when I walked into the diner. Georgia was already there, wearing oversized sunglasses and sipping an iced coffee like she hadn't just scammed her own sister. June! She squealed, standing up to hug me. Oh my God, I've missed you. I hugged her back, pressing the mic into her shoulder as I did. You look good, I said. She smiled, sliding back into the booth. It's been a whirlwind. Leo's stable now, but it's been a nightmare. The doctors are so cold. And the language barrier? Ugh. I nodded, pretending to listen. So, what's the new issue? She sighed dramatically. They think there's fluid buildup. Maybe a clot. They're monitoring it, but if it gets worse, he'll need another procedure. I tilted my head. In Switzerland? Yeah, or Germany. Depends on the specialist. I'm waiting to hear. I sipped my water. And the cost? 10,000, maybe 12. I know it's a lot, but I'm tapped. Flights, hotels, meds, it's all adding up. You said you were staying in the hospital. She blinked. I was, but then they moved him to outpatient care. I raised an eyebrow. In Dubai? Her face froze. I saw your posts, I said softly. The yacht, the spa, shopping. She laughed nervously. Oh, those were old photos. I scheduled them to post, to keep up appearances. My followers expect content. Right, I said. Her phone buzzed on the table. A comment popped up on her lock screen. You're glowing, girl. That Dubai sun hits different. I didn't react. She didn't notice. I reached into my bag, pulled out an envelope, and slid it across the table. What's this? She asked. Something to help. She opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a printout of the wire transfer, with fraud written across it in red Sharpie. Her mouth dropped open. What the hell is this? Proof, I said, of what you did. She stood up, eyes wild. You're insane. Sit down, I said quietly, or I'll play the recording. She sat, and I smiled. The trap was set. Georgia stared at the paper like it might bite her. You think this is funny? She hissed, crumpling the page in her hand. You ambushed me with fake drama? I didn't flinch. You want to talk about fake drama? You lied about your son having brain surgery. I never said brain surgery, she snapped. You're twisting things. I leaned in. I have the wire, the texts, the recording from just now. You said Leo had fluid buildup and needed another procedure. In Germany this time, right? Want to keep going? She looked around the diner like someone might come save her. No one did. You don't get it, she said, lowering her voice. I'm building something. A platform. You think brands care about a single mom unless she's got a story? I gave them one. You gave them a lie. She rolled her eyes. It's marketing, June. Everyone embellishes. You think those cancer GoFundMes are all real? People lie all the time. You're not people. You're my sister. She paused, then softened her tone, like she always did when she wanted something. I was desperate. You don't know what it's like, trying to raise a kid alone with no support. No one helping me. You had me, I said. Every time. Until now. She looked down, her voice quieter. I didn't mean to hurt you. Save it. Her phone buzzed again. Another Instagram notification. I glanced at the screen. A new comment under a photo of her on a beach. Living your best life, Mama. I pulled up my phone and tapped open the voice memo app. Just so you know, I said, tapping stop, that entire conversation was recorded. Her eyes widened. You're serious? You bet. You can't do that. That's illegal. Not in this state. She sat back, arms crossed. So what? You're going to post it? Ruin me? I smiled. Not me. She didn't ask who. She didn't need to. I stood up and dropped a 20 on the table. Good luck with your platform. June, she called after me, her voice shaking now. You're not this person. I stopped at the door and looked back. Neither were you. I walked out into the sun, heart pounding. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel bad. I just felt done. Back at my apartment, Cameron was waiting. Well, he asked, standing in the hallway with a Red Bull in one hand and his laptop in the other. She gave me everything I needed, I said, brushing past him. We sat at my kitchen table. I handed him the recording. She admitted to the lie, tried to spin it as marketing. Cameron shook his head. She's got no shame. I want it all backed up. Cloud, hard drive, everything. He nodded, already plugging in cables. What's the next move? I opened my laptop and pulled up her PR rep's contact. I'd found it last night in her tagged posts. A woman named Lacey who managed a few mid-level influencers. I'm going to pretend I'm a journalist, I said. Say I'm working on a piece about donation fraud. Ask for comment. Cameron grinned. You're really doing this. She used Leo. She used me. She's not getting away with it. He hit play on the audio. Georgia's voice filled the room. They think there's fluid buildup. Maybe a clot. 10,000. I'm tapped. Followers expect content. Cameron whistled. That's gold. I sent the email. Subject. Urgent inquiry regarding Georgia's fundraising claims. Body. Hi, Lacey. I'm working on a piece investigating alleged donation fraud involving social media influencers. I'd like to give Georgia the opportunity to comment before publication. Please let me know if she'd prefer to issue a statement. I hit send. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Is this June? Yes. This is Lacey. What exactly are you accusing Georgia of? I kept my voice calm. I'm not accusing, just collecting facts. She received $42,000 from me under the claim that her son needed emergency surgery. I have proof that wasn't true. Silence. I also have a voice recording of her admitting it was fabricated for content. I thought you'd want to know before your agency is attached to a scandal. Lacey exhaled. We'll be reviewing our relationship with her. Thank you for the heads up. I hung up. Cameron raised an eyebrow. That's one domino. The next fell faster than I expected. By the next morning, Georgia's latest post had over 100 comments calling her a fraud. Someone had leaked the voice clip. Not me. Maybe Lacey. Maybe Aaron. I didn't care. I scrolled through the chaos. You scammed your own family? Unfollowed. Gross. How do you sleep at night? I clicked on her profile. A new story popped up. She was crying in her car, mascara smudged, voice shaking. I just want to say, I never meant to hurt anyone. People don't understand what it's like to survive as a single mom. The pressure, the judgment. I made mistakes, but I'm human. I watched it twice. Then I checked my email. A message from Aaron. Lawyers filing for full custody. CPS is involved. Just wanted you to know. Thank you again. I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. The trap had worked. But I didn't feel like celebrating. Not yet. The knock on George's door came exactly 2 days after the video leaked. I was parked across the street in a borrowed Honda, sunglasses on, hoodie up. I watched as 2 CPS agents stepped onto her porch. She opened the door in a matching velour tracksuit, hair piled on top of her head, no makeup. Not her usual brand. They showed her badges. She froze. She tried to smile. She even laughed like it was a mix-up. Then they stepped inside. That was the moment I knew it was real. No turning back. I didn't stay long. I didn't need to. I'd seen what I came for. Later that afternoon, Aaron called. "They found Leo with a 16-year-old babysitter," he said, voice tight. "She left him for 3 days while she was in Dubai." My stomach turned. 3 days? Kid didn't even have a car, ran out of groceries. Leo was eating cereal and string cheese. I closed my eyes. "She's done," Aaron said. "My lawyer's filing for emergency custody. CPS is backing it." "Good," I said. "He deserves better." He was quiet for a second. "So do you." That night, Georgia's PR team officially dropped her. I saw the statement on Twitter. "We are no longer affiliated with Georgia. We do not condone fraudulent behavior or the exploitation of children for personal gain." Her brand deals vanished one by one. The teeth-whitening kit, the protein shakes, the waist trainer. All gone. Her follower count dropped by the thousands. I didn't post anything. I didn't comment. I just watched. The next day, she called me. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice was low, almost whispery. "You think you've won? You haven't. You've just made me dangerous." Click. I stared at the screen. Cameron was sitting on my couch, scrolling through Reddit. "She's trending," he said. "There's a whole thread on R Scammer Watch. They're calling her the sick kid grifter." I didn't smile. "Do you regret it?" he asked. I looked at him. No. But I didn't feel proud either. The next morning, I got a call from the DA's office. They were opening an investigation into fraud and child endangerment. They wanted me to testify. I said yes. The courtroom was cold. Georgia sat at the defendant's table, pale and quiet, her hair flat and unstyled. She didn't look at me as I walked past. Aaron sat behind me, Leo's stuffed dinosaur in his lap. He gave me a small nod. When they called my name, I stood. The bailiff swore me in. I took the stand. I told the truth. I told them about the phone call, the fake diagnosis, the money, the second ask, the recording, the trip, the babysitter, the cereal and string cheese. Georgia never looked up. When it was over, I stepped down and walked past her. She whispered, "You ruined my life." I stopped. "No," I said. "You did." Outside, reporters were waiting. I kept my head down and walked straight to my car. Cameron was waiting at my apartment with takeout. "You did it," he said, handing me a box of noodles. I nodded. He sat beside me, chopsticks in hand. "So, what now?" I looked out the window. "I don't know." The next day, the story hit the local news. They showed George's mugshot, then a photo of Leo smiling in a park with Aaron. I watched it once. Then I turned off the TV. A week passed. Then 2. Georgia was sentenced to probation and community service. No jail time, but CPS was still involved. Aaron got full custody. I didn't hear from her again. Until I did. A new voicemail. Her voice was calm this time. "I'm writing something, a book, about all of this, and you're in it. You're the villain, obviously, but don't worry, I'll make you interesting." I deleted it. Later that night, Cameron told me she'd started posting again. Low-key, a new handle, different vibe, pity posts and healing quotes. "She's trying to rebrand," he said. I shrugged. "Let her." He looked at me. "You okay?" I nodded. "Getting there." He smiled. "You know, for what it's worth, I think you saved that kid's life." I didn't answer. I just looked out the window as the city lights flickered on, one by one. I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed with a number I hadn't seen in over a decade. I froze. "Hello?" I answered, cautious. "June, it's your mother." I didn't speak. "I heard about Georgia," she said. "Thought maybe we should talk." I almost hung up. Instead, I said, "Why now?" "Because what's happening isn't new," she replied. "And if you're smart, you'll want to understand why." We met at a diner off the freeway, neutral ground. She looked older than I remembered, more tired, less sharp. Her lipstick was faded, hair pulled back in a loose bun. No drama, no performance. "Still like tea?" she asked, sliding into the booth. "I'll stick with coffee." She nodded. Fair enough. We sat in awkward silence until the waitress came and left. Then she leaned in. "Georgia's not just selfish, she's sick." I stared at her. "Don't you dare use that as an excuse." "It's not an excuse," she said. "It's a diagnosis." I blinked. "She was 15, she continued, caught shoplifting, but it wasn't about the makeup. She told the cops she was trying to build her image. She was obsessed with being seen, with being wanted." I frowned. "That sounds like Georgia." They sent her for a psych eval. She was placed on a 72-hour hold. "I didn't tell you. I thought I could fix it. Thought if I just kept things normal, it would pass." "You hid a psychiatric hold from me?" "You were 17, applying to colleges. I didn't want to burden you." I laughed, bitter. "You didn't want to deal with it." She didn't argue. "They said she had narcissistic personality traits. Not a full diagnosis. She was too young. But it was there. The entitlement, the manipulation, the lack of empathy." I shook my head. "You let her raise a child." "I didn't let her do anything. She cut me off, said I was toxic, said I ruined her life." I stared at the table. Maybe we both did. She reached across the table, but I pulled my hand back. "Why are you really here?" I asked. She hesitated. "Because this doesn't end with Georgia. It started with me. And if you don't stop it, it'll pass to Leo." I looked up. "You think I'm exaggerating," she said, "but I see the signs, the way she uses him, the way she talks about him like he's a brand extension. That boy is 5, and already he's been taught that love is transactional." I swallowed hard. "You want to end this curse?" she said. "Make sure she loses everything, or it repeats." I sat back, stunned. The waitress came with our drinks. I stared at the steam rising from my cup. "I already did enough damage," I said. "Not yet." I narrowed my eyes. "You want me to destroy her." "I want you to protect Leo." She slid a small envelope across the table. "What's this?" "Photos. From the hospital stay. Notes. The report." I didn't touch it. "Do what you want," she said, standing. "But pretending she's just a bad person won't help anyone. She's broken, and broken people break others." She walked out without another word. I sat there for a long time. Later that night, I opened the envelope. Inside were a few grainy photos. Georgia in a hospital gown, arms crossed, scowling at the camera. A copy of the 5150 form, notes from a social worker, displays grandiosity, manipulative behavior, emotional detachment, recommends long-term therapy and monitoring. I closed the folder. Cameron came over around 9. "You look like you've seen a ghost," he said, flopping onto the couch. My mom showed up. He sat up. "What?" "She told me Georgia was hospitalized when we were teens. Psych hold. Said it runs deep." Cameron whistled. "That explains a lot. She said if I don't finish this, Leo's next." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you believe her?" I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I do." He looked at the folder in my hands. "So what now?" I stood and walked to my desk. "I finish it." The courthouse smelled like old paper and nerves. I sat in the front row, clutching the folder my mother had given me. Inside were the documents, proof of Georgia's past, her diagnosis, her pattern. I hadn't planned to use it, but after everything, I knew I had to. Aaron sat beside me, dressed in a navy suit. Leo's dinosaur peeked out from his bag. "You ready?" he asked quietly. I nodded. "You?" He gave a tight smile. "I've been ready for years." The bailiff called Georgia's name. She walked in wearing a beige blazer, hair slicked back, no lashes or highlighter in sight. Her lawyer whispered something to her, and she nodded without looking at the crowd. She didn't glance at me. Not once. The judge called the case. State versus Georgia, May, charges of fraud, child endangerment, and misuse of charitable funds. The prosecutor stood. "We have testimony, digital evidence, and witness statements. We're asking for probation with mandatory counseling, full custody to the father, and supervised visitation." Georgia's lawyer stood next. "My client is remorseful. She's already suffered significant public backlash. She's lost her job opportunities, her income, and her reputation. We request leniency." The judge turned to me. "Ms. Foster, would you like to make a statement?" I stood, heart pounding. I walked to the front, cleared my throat, and unfolded the paper. "My name is June. I'm Georgia's sister, the person she called when she said her son was dying, the person she lied to, stole from, and used." I looked up. "She told me Leo needed emergency surgery, that he might die. I wired her every dollar I had, money I'd saved for a home. I didn't hesitate because I love that boy. And I believed her." Georgia stared straight ahead. Then I found out she was in Dubai, shopping, drinking, posting bikini pics. Leo wasn't sick. He was left with a teenage babysitter. No food, no supervision. I held up the folder. "This isn't new. Georgia's been manipulating people since we were kids. She was hospitalized for it once. I didn't know until recently, but now I do. And I won't ignore it." The judge raised an eyebrow. "You're submitting that as evidence?" I nodded. "Yes, Your Honor." I handed it to the bailiff. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want Leo safe, and I want the court to understand. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern, and it won't stop unless someone stops it." I stepped back. The judge flipped through the folder, his expression unreadable. Georgia's lawyer stood again. "Your Honor, that information is from a juvenile record." The judge held up a hand. "It's relevant, and it's damning." He turned to Georgia. "Ms. May, your actions were reckless, deceitful, and dangerous. You used your child as a prop. You exploited your sister's love, and you endangered a minor to fund a vacation." Georgia finally looked up. Her lips parted like she might speak, but nothing came out. I'm sentencing you to 2 years of probation, 500 hours of community service, and mandatory weekly therapy. You will have no unsupervised contact with your son. Custody is awarded to the father, effective immediately. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then the gavel hit. I exhaled. It was done. Outside, reporters swarmed. Microphones, cameras, flashes. June, do you have a comment? Did you expect this outcome? Is your sister a danger to her child? I pushed through them, Aaron close behind. We got to the parking lot. He stopped me by my car. Thank you, he said. For everything. I nodded, eyes stinging. He opened his bag and pulled out the dinosaur. Leo wants you to have this, I smiled, hugging it to my chest. He still doesn't know everything, Aaron said, just that you helped. That's all he needs to know. He hesitated. If you ever want to see him. I do. He nodded. You're part of his family, always. He walked away. I climbed into my car and sat there, staring at the stuffed toy in my lap. Then my phone buzzed. Voicemail. I hit play. George's voice, soft and slow. You think you've won, but you've only made me dangerous. I deleted it. Then I drove home in silence. The dinosaur seat-belted in beside me. The beach was nearly empty, just a few joggers and a woman walking her dog. I kicked off my shoes and stepped into the sand, the breeze cool against my face. Daniel was already there, sitting on the old driftwood log near the rocks, a coffee in each hand. You're late, he said, smiling as I walked up. Court ran long, I replied, sitting beside him. Judge had opinions. He handed me the coffee. Hazelnut, no sugar. You remembered. I remember a lot about you. I took a sip and stared at the waves. The sky was overcast, but it felt right. Quiet. Honest. He glanced at me. You okay? I nodded. Getting there. We sat in silence for a few minutes, the kind that didn't feel awkward. Then he said, Cameron told me what happened. With Georgia. The whole thing. I didn't respond. He said you were a different person now. I looked at him. Is that a bad thing? He shook his head. No, just heavier. I laughed once. Yeah, that's about right. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You know, I used to think you were too good, too perfect. You broke up with me because I was boring. I broke up with you because I didn't think I deserved someone who never asked for anything. I turned to him. And now? Now I see someone who finally did. I smiled, but it didn't quite reach my eyes. He nudged me. You ever think about starting over? Like, with you? He shrugged. Or just with someone who knows what it's like to carry too much. I looked down at the sand between my toes. Maybe? He didn't push. After a while I stood. I should go. Therapy's in an hour. He raised an eyebrow. You? Therapy. Turns out revenge doesn't fix everything. He laughed. Let me walk you. We walked in silence back to the parking lot. As we reached my car, I saw Cameron leaning against the hood, arms crossed, holding his phone. You're not gonna like this, he said. What? He handed me the screen. It was a video, posted to a new Instagram account. George's face filled the frame, makeup free, eyes red. This is hard to talk about, she said, voice shaking. But I'm writing a memoir about betrayal, about being scapegoated by my own sister, about surviving lies, not telling them. The title flashed across the screen. blood isn't always family, a mother's story. I stared at it. Daniel whistled. Wow, she's really going for it. Cameron shook his head. She's painting you as the manipulator. Says you made up the whole thing to steal Leo. I handed the phone back. Let her write. Cameron blinked. That's it? She needs a story, I said. I already wrote her ending. He smiled a little. You really are different. I opened my car door, tossed my sandals inside. Daniel stepped closer. So, dinner sometime? I paused. Not yet. He nodded. I'll wait. I drove home with the windows down. The apartment was quiet. I set the coffee on the counter and walked to the bookshelf, pulled out the folder, George's file, and slid it into a box labeled Done. Then I picked up the little dinosaur from the shelf and set it on my nightstand. My phone buzzed. A text from Aaron. Leo's asking if you can come to his school art show tomorrow. He made something for Aunt June. I replied, wouldn't miss it. I plugged in my phone, turned off the light, and crawled into bed. For the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming.
I always thought betrayal would feel like a sudden stab to the heart. Instead, it crept in slowly, wrapped in the quiet whispers of a Sunday family dinner. My name is Veronica, and I was 18 when I learned that family loyalty had a price tag, specifically the price of my college education. We need to discuss something important, Mom said, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her wine glass. Dad sat beside her, avoiding my eyes, while Aunt Maria perched on the armchair like a queen about to deliver a royal decree. I should have known something was wrong when they invited me into Dad's study after dinner. That room was reserved for serious conversations, like when Grandpa died, or when Dad lost his job at the firm. Honey, Mom started, her voice trembling. We've been thinking about the future, about college. Your cousin Haley has shown remarkable potential, Aunt Maria cut in, her voice smooth as honey but twice as sticky. She's been accepted into several prestigious universities. I nodded, confused. That's great. I'm still waiting to hear back from MIT and Georgia Tech myself. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush me. The thing is, Dad finally spoke, his words careful and measured. We've decided to reallocate some resources. Reallocate? The word felt foreign on my tongue. Your college fund? Mom blurted out. We're giving it to Haley. The world didn't stop. The earth didn't shake. Instead, everything became crystal clear, like someone had finally wiped clean a foggy window. You're what? I managed to keep my voice steady, though my hands were shaking under the desk. It makes perfect sense. Aunt Maria leaned forward, her expensive perfume suffocating me. Haley's been accepted to Harvard. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Your parents understand that supporting her education is an investment in our family's future. And what about my future? The words came out sharper than I intended. Oh, sweetie. Mom reached for my hand. I pulled away. You're so practical. You can start at community college, work part-time. You've always been good at figuring things out. Unlike Haley, Aunt Maria added, who needs to focus entirely on her studies. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. So, because I'm capable, I get punished? Because I'm responsible, I lose my chance? You're not losing anything, Dad protested weakly. You're helping family. Family? I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. Does Haley know that you're giving her my future? She'll be so grateful, Aunt Maria beamed. She's always looked up to you. I walked to the window, watching our neighbor's cat prowl across the garden. Behind me, they continued talking about logistics, about how this was the right decision, about how I'd understand someday. How much? I asked, turning back to face them. What? How much of my fund are you giving her? Mom looked at Dad, who cleared his throat. All of it. 85,000. The number hit me like a physical blow. 8 years of saving. Every birthday check from grandparents. Every summer job. Gone. Veronica, Mom started again, but I held up my hand. I need some air. I walked out of the study, past the living room where Haley sat texting on her phone, completely oblivious to how her future had just been bought with my dreams. In my room, I opened my laptop and started typing. If they thought I would roll over and accept this, they didn't know me at all. I had straight A's in advanced math and science. I'd been tutoring since sophomore year. I knew how to build websites. My phone buzzed. A text from Patrick, my computer science teacher, who'd become a mentor of sorts. How'd the family dinner go? I stared at the message, then typed, "Can we meet tomorrow? I need business advice." His reply came instantly. "Coffee shop, 4 p.m. Perfect. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. The girl staring back wasn't a victim. She was someone who'd just been underestimated for the last time. They thought they were teaching me about family loyalty. Instead, they were about to learn a lesson about consequences. I opened a new document and started typing. Business plan. Online tutoring platform. Let Haley have Harvard. I had something better. Motivation and revenge, I was discovering, made an excellent business partner. You're either incredibly brilliant or completely insane, Patrick said, stirring his coffee as he reviewed my business plan. Maybe both. The coffee shop buzzed with afternoon activity, providing perfect cover for our conversation. 3 months had passed since that fateful family dinner, and I'd spent every free moment building my secret empire. The market's saturated with tutoring services, he continued, but your approach... He tapped the screen where my prototype website glowed. This is different. Most platforms just connect tutors with students, I explained, leaning forward. Mine provides structured courses, progress tracking, and personalized study plans. Plus, I'm focusing exclusively on STEM subjects. And you're doing this while maintaining a 4.0 at community college? I smiled tightly. Sleep is overrated. Veronica, Patrick's voice softened. You don't have to prove anything to them. I'm not. I started, but he cut me off with a look. I've known you since you were 15. This isn't just about building a business. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Mom's text read, Family dinner tonight. Haley wants to share her Harvard experiences. Speaking of proving things, I muttered, showing Patrick the message. Are you going? Have to. Missing family dinners would raise suspicions. That evening, I sat through another excruciating performance of The Haley Show, picking at my mother's lasagna while my cousin dominated the conversation. And then my professor said my paper was the most insightful analysis he'd read all semester, Haley gushed, twirling her fork dramatically. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Aunt Maria beamed. Isn't it amazing what she's achieving? I bit back the urge to mention that my online calculus course had the highest student satisfaction rating in the state. Instead, I smiled and asked, How's the social life, Haley? Oh my God, the parties are incredible. Last weekend. Parties? I interrupted innocently. I thought you needed to focus entirely on your studies. A moment of awkward silence followed, before Dad cleared his throat. How's community college, Veronica? It's fine, I said, stabbing a piece of garlic bread. I'm managing. She's always been so practical, Aunt Maria said, as if practical was a terminal illness. Not everyone is meant for prestigious universities. Under the table, my hands clenched into fists. My phone vibrated. A notification from my business dashboard. Another 50 students had signed up for my advanced physics course.
Excuse me, I said, standing up. I need to use the bathroom. In the hallway, I checked my phone. The new enrollments would add another $5,000 to my monthly revenue. I was already making more than Dad's salary, and nobody had a clue. You okay? Mum's voice startled me. She stood in the hallway, concern etched on her face. Just tired, working extra shifts at the library. She touched my arm. I know things have been hard, but we're so proud of how you're handling everything. I wanted to laugh, or cry, or both. Thanks, Mum, I managed, then escaped back to the dining room. Later that night, I met Patrick at his home office. He'd been letting me use it as my business headquarters after hours. Your server crashed again, he said by way of greeting. You need better infrastructure. I dropped into a chair, exhausted. I know. The growth is happening faster than I anticipated. Speaking of growth, he turned his monitor toward me, showing a spreadsheet. You've hit 6 figures in monthly revenue. It's time to incorporate properly. And risk them finding out? Veronica, he leaned back, fixing me with a serious look. You're not just running a side hustle anymore. This is becoming a real company. You need to protect yourself legally. I stared at the numbers on the screen. He was right, of course. What had started as a revenge-fueled project was evolving into something bigger than I'd imagined. Fine, I conceded. But we keep it quiet. As far as my family knows, I'm still just scraping by at community college. While secretly building an education technology empire, Patrick smirked. You know, someday, this is going to make one hell of a story. Someday, I agreed, opening my laptop to review student feedback. But for now, let them think what they want. Let them believe Haley is the family's only hope for success. You're playing a dangerous game. I thought about the look on Aunt Maria's face when she'd dismissed me earlier. About the way my parents had given away my future without a second thought. No, I said, my fingers flying across the keyboard as another batch of enrollment notifications came in. I'm not playing at all. This is dead serious. The news broke during another mandatory family dinner, but this time, the star of the show was conspicuously absent. Haley's taking a break from Harvard, Aunt Maria announced, her voice brittle as thin ice. Just for a semester. To find herself. I paused mid-bite, my fork hovering over my plate. Mom and Dad exchanged worried glances. Find herself? Dad asked carefully. What exactly does that mean? She's been under so much pressure. Aunt Maria dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. The academics, the social obligations, it's all so demanding. The parties must have been exhausting, I muttered into my water glass. Mom shot me a warning look. What about the money? The silence that followed was deafening. Gone, Aunt Maria whispered. All of it. The tuition, the housing deposits, the emergency fund. She needed to maintain a certain lifestyle to network properly. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably another notification about my company's growing user base. I'd just hired my 20th employee last week. But surely there's something left. Dad's voice had taken on the same desperate tone I remembered from when he'd lost his job. She's in Bali, Aunt Maria said, as if that explained everything. Finding her spiritual center. I couldn't help myself. Spiritual center? That's what we're calling it when someone blows through $85,000 in less than 2 years? Veronica! Mom scolded. No, let her speak. Aunt Maria's eyes narrowed. You've always been jealous of Haley's opportunities. I laughed, and the sound seemed to startle everyone at the table. Jealous? Of what? Her ability to waste other people's money? You don't understand the pressures. You're right, I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I don't understand pressure. I only work full-time while taking a full course load at community college. What would I know about pressure? I left the dining room, but not before hearing Dad's quiet question to Aunt Maria. What about paying it back? In my old bedroom, I opened my laptop
and checked my company's latest figures. We'd just crossed the $1 million monthly revenue mark. Patrick had been right about incorporating. We now had offices in 3 cities. A soft knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in." Mom entered, looking tired. That wasn't very kind downstairs. Neither was giving away my college fund. She sat on my bed, smoothing the comforter with trembling hands. "Your father and we're in trouble, Veronica." "What kind of trouble?" "Financial," she whispered. "We took out a second mortgage to help with Haley's expenses. Maria promised to pay us back, but now—" I closed my laptop slowly. "How bad is it? We might lose the house." The irony was almost too perfect. Here I sat, a secret millionaire, watching my parents reap what they'd sown. "Have you talked to a financial advisor?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "We can't afford one." Mom's laugh was hollow. "We can barely afford groceries." My phone buzzed again. A text from Patrick. "Major tech company wants to acquire us. 9 figures. Call me." "Maybe I can help," I said carefully. "I've been studying financial management at school." Mom patted my hand. "That's sweet, honey, but this is beyond a student's understanding. We need a miracle." I bit back a smile. A miracle, or just a daughter they'd underestimated? Later that night, I met Patrick at our usual spot. "They want to buy us out completely," he said, sliding the offer letter across the table. "You could walk away now, never work another day in your life." I stared at the number of zeros on the page. "Not yet. This is about your family, isn't it?" "They need to understand," I said, pushing the letter back to him. "Counteroffer. I want to retain majority control." Patrick studied my face. "You're planning something. Let's just say Karma's about to make a house call." On my drive home, I passed Aunt Maria's house, its pristine lawn and luxury cars a monument to appearances. Soon, those appearances would crumble, just like Haley's Harvard dreams. My phone rang. Mom again. "Honey, I hate to ask, but do you have any savings? Even a few hundred would help right now." I smiled into the darkness. "Actually, Mom, I might have a solution, but we need to talk about terms and conditions." "Terms and conditions?" "Yes," I said, pulling into our driveway. "It's time for a family meeting. A real one this time." The stage was set. My revenge wasn't just about money anymore. It was about teaching them the true cost of their choices. And I was about to give them one expensive lesson. "Summa cum laude," the dean announced, and I walked across the stage to receive my engineering degree. From my seat in the audience, I could see Mom and Dad clapping politely, still unaware that I'd finished my 4-year degree in just under 3 years, or that I was now worth 8 figures. "I'm so proud of you." Mom hugged me after the ceremony. "A community college degree is nothing to be ashamed of." I caught Patrick's eye across the crowd. He was trying not to laugh. "Thanks, Mom. Actually, there's something I need to tell you. Veronica!" Aunt Maria's voice cut through the crowd like a knife. She was wearing designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my parents' monthly mortgage payment. "How quaint. Is this the whole graduation ceremony?" "Maria," Dad said weakly, "I didn't know you were coming." "Of course. Family supports family." She air-kissed my cheeks. "Have you heard from Haley? She's starting a yoga retreat in Thailand. Very exclusive." "Still finding herself?" I asked innocently. "That's quite a long search." Before Aunt Maria could respond, my phone rang. I stepped away to take the call. "The acquisition papers are ready," my lawyer said. "Are you sure about the terms?" "Absolutely. Send them over." When I returned, Mom was making dinner plans. "We should celebrate. Maybe that new Italian place." "Too expensive," Dad muttered. "Actually," I said, "I'd like to host dinner at my place." They all stared at me. Your place? Mom frowned. But you live in the dorm. Not anymore. I have an apartment downtown, near the tech district. How can you afford? Dad started. That's part of what I want to discuss, I interrupted. 7 o'clock? Patrick will be joining us. Your professor? Aunt Maria scoffed. Why would he? My business partner, I corrected. And trust me, you'll want to hear what we have to say. Later that evening, I watched their faces as they entered my penthouse apartment. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline. Modern art hung on the walls, and the furniture was sleek and expensive. There must be some mistake, Mum whispered. This can't be. Dinner's ready, I announced, leading them to the dining room where Patrick was already seated. I hope everyone likes Japanese fusion. Veronica, Dad's voice was strained. What's going on? I took my seat at the head of the table. Remember when you gave my college fund to Haley? You said I was good at figuring things out. But this, Aunt Maria gestured around. This is impossible. Actually, Patrick spoke up, it's quite impressive. Veronica built a multi-million-dollar education technology company while completing her engineering degree. In 3 years, no less. The silence was delicious. Multi-million? Dad choked on his water. I opened my laptop and pulled up our company website. We have over 200,000 students worldwide. Major tech companies are fighting to acquire us. And yes, I graduated today. From Georgia Tech's online engineering program, not community college. Mom's hands were shaking. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. You all decided who I was 3 years ago. The practical one, the responsible one, the one who would understand having her future stolen. We never stole, Aunt Maria began. $85,000, I cut her off. That's what you took from me. Would you like to know what I turned it into? I slid the acquisition offer across the table. Dad's face went pale as he read the number. This is more money than Haley burned through? Yes. More than this apartment cost? Definitely. More than your second mortgage? Absolutely. How did you know about the mortgage? Mom gasped. I know everything, I said calmly. About the loans, the credit card debt, the missed payments, just like I know Aunt Maria has been lying about her finances for years. Aunt Maria stood up abruptly. This is absurd. I don't have to listen. Sit down. My voice was steel. You haven't heard my offer yet. Offer? Dad looked up from the paper. Yes. I smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. I'm prepared to help you all out of this financial mess, but there will be terms, conditions, and this time, I'll be the one setting them. Patrick raised his glass. I believe this is what they call a turning of the tables. You can't be serious, Aunt Maria sputtered. Oh, but I am, I said, opening a folder containing carefully prepared documents. Now, who would like to hear my terms? The look on their faces was worth every sleepless night, every missed party, every moment of the past 3 years. Revenge, it turned out, was best served with a side of success. These terms are outrageous. Aunt Maria slammed the document down on my dining table. You can't possibly expect us to agree to this. Actually, I leaned back in my chair, I expect you'll find them quite reasonable, considering the alternative is bankruptcy. Dad was still reading, his hands trembling slightly. Full financial transparency, monthly audits, approval needed for any purchase over $500. And this ridiculous clause about family dinners? Aunt Maria sneered. My favorite part, I smiled. No more mandatory family gatherings unless I initiate them. No more comparing cousins. No more talk about Haley's spiritual journey. She's finding herself, Aunt Maria protested. On my parents' dime, I countered. Speaking of which, let's discuss the repayment schedule. Mom hadn't spoken yet. She sat there, staring at her hands, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. The interest rate is fair, Patrick pointed out. Much better than they'd get from any bank, especially given their current credit scores. You checked our credit? Dad looked up, aghast. I did my due diligence, I said. Just like you should have done before giving away my future. The doorbell rang. Right on schedule. That would be my lawyer. I stood up. She'll walk us through the paperwork. Lawyer? Aunt Maria's face went pale. This is a family matter. Family matters stopped being private when you convinced my parents to take out a second mortgage for Haley's designer wardrobe. The lawyer, Sarah, was crisp and professional as she laid out additional documents. The terms are non-negotiable, she explained. Miss Veronica will assume the second mortgage and clear all outstanding debts in exchange for financial oversight and specific behavioral conditions. Behavioral conditions? Mom finally spoke. Like we're children? Like you're people who made very poor decisions, I corrected, and need supervision to avoid making them again. And if we refuse? Aunt Maria challenged. I pulled up the bank's foreclosure notice on my laptop. Then Mum and Dad lose the house next month. Your credit card debt goes to collections, and that audit the IRS is planning for your consulting business, Aunt Maria. It won't be pretty. The color drained from her face. How did you? I have resources now, I said simply. And unlike some people, I know how to use them. Dad was reading the final pages. You'll pay off everything? Just like that? Not just like that. I pointed to the signature line. You'll be on a strict budget. No more enabling Haley. No more secret loans. And you'll all attend financial literacy classes. This is humiliating, Aunt Maria stood up. More humiliating than bankruptcy? Patrick asked mildly. Because that's where you're headed without Veronica's help. Mum reached for the pen with shaking hands. We don't have a choice, do we? You always have a choice, I said quietly. Just like you had a choice 3 years ago. The next hour was filled with signatures and notarizations. With each page, I watched my family's autonomy slip away, just like my college fund had slipped away that Sunday evening. One more thing, I said, as Sarah packed up the documents. Haley comes home. What? Aunt Maria's head snapped up. Part of the agreement. I'm buying her a ticket back from Thailand. She gets a job, a real one, and starts paying back what she owes. She's not ready. She's been ready her whole life, I cut in. She just never had to be responsible because you were all too busy protecting her from consequences. After they left, Patrick poured us both a drink. That was brutal. It was necessary. I took a sip. They needed to understand. Understand what? That actions have consequences. That responsibility isn't a punishment. It's a privilege. That the practical one, the responsible one, the one they all underestimated. I smiled into my glass. She was paying attention all along. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We never meant to hurt you. I typed back. I know, but you did. Now we all learn from it. Patrick raised his glass. To karma? To karma. I clinked my glass against his. And to the next family dinner, on my terms this time. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and somewhere in Thailand, my cousin was about to receive a very interesting email about her all-expenses-paid trip home. The thought made me smile. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying people. Sometimes it's about forcing them to rebuild themselves, brick by painful brick. And I would be there, watching every step of the construction. Your credit card was declined, I said, sliding the plastic across the kitchen counter to Mom. Want to explain the attempted purchase at Nordstrom? 2 weeks had passed since the agreements were signed. Mum stood in my apartment's kitchen, looking like a teenager caught sneaking out. "It was just a small thing," she mumbled. "A dress for Haley's welcome home dinner?" I pulled up the purchase attempt on my tablet. $479 isn't small, Mum, and it's definitely not within the approved budget. She needs something nice for her first day at the office job you arranged. She needs to learn the difference between wants and needs, I corrected. Something you and Aunt Maria never taught her. The elevator dinged, and Patrick walked in with several shopping bags. Mission accomplished. Picked up everything on the list. "What's that?" Mom asked. "Haley's work wardrobe," I said. "From Target and H&M, professional, appropriate, and within budget." "Target?" Mom looked horrified. "But she's never had to shop at Target? Never had to check price tags? Never had to work for anything?" I started unpacking the bags. That's exactly the problem. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. "Maria's asking for an advance on next month's allowance." "Excuse me," I told Mom, stepping into my office to make a call. "Hello?" Aunt Maria answered on the first ring. "No advances," I said firmly. "But the country club dues are not covered in the agreement. We discussed this. Your membership has been cancelled. How am I supposed to maintain my social connections? The same way normal people do, through work and genuine relationships, not overpriced cocktails and gossip." Back in the kitchen, Mom was fingering one of the blouses Patrick had bought. "It's actually quite nice. Life doesn't end when you shop at regular stores, Mom." I sat down beside her. "How are the financial literacy classes going?" She blushed. "Did you know we've been calculating interest wrong all these years? No wonder the credit cards got so out of control." "Speaking of control," Patrick interjected, "Haley's flight lands in 3 hours." Mom straightened up. "I should go pick her up." "No," I said firmly. "Remember the agreement. I'm picking her up. Alone." 3 hours later, I stood at the international arrivals gate, watching as my cousin emerged looking tanned and considerably less designer-clad than when she'd left. "Veronica?" She blinked in surprise. "Where's Mom?" "Your welcome wagon has new management." I gestured toward the exit. "Let's go." In the car, she fidgeted with her worn backpack. "Mom said you're, rich now? And you're helping everyone?" "I'm helping them help themselves," I corrected, pulling onto the highway. "Starting with you." "Me? But I'm fine. I just needed some time to—" "Find yourself? In 5-star resorts using stolen money?" She fell silent. "Here's your new schedule." I handed her a folder. "Work starts Monday at 8 a.m. sharp. You'll be an administrative assistant at a real estate office. Salary is $35,000 a year." "That's nothing. My handbag collection alone was worth, I interrupted. "Past tense. You'll live in the apartment I've arranged, with a roommate. Rent will be deducted from your salary, along with a reasonable repayment plan for the money you wasted." "You can't do this!" I pulled into a parking spot at her new apartment building, modest but clean and safe. "Actually, I can. Your mother signed the papers. You can either accept these terms, or—" I shrugged. "Well, Thailand might look welcoming, but your passport has been flagged." "You didn't." "I did. Welcome to responsibility, cousin." Upstairs, her new roommate Rachel was waiting, a sensible nursing student I'd carefully selected. "Your room's through there," Rachel pointed. "We split utilities and groceries. House rules are on the fridge." Haley looked around the simple apartment, then at her single suitcase of remaining possessions. For the first time, I saw something crack in her entitled facade. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "That's why you have Rachel," I said. "And mandatory life skills classes twice a week. You'll learn. And if I refuse, then you can explain to the police about the fraudulent credit cards you opened in your mother's name." Her head snapped up. "How did you—" "I know everything now, Haley. Every secret. Every lie. Every scheme. I headed for the door. See you at work on Monday. Don't be late. Outside, Patrick was waiting in his car. How'd it go? Phase 1 complete, I smiled. Now for the real test. Family dinner tomorrow night. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Enjoying? No. I watched the lights come on in Haley's window. But sometimes the hardest lessons are the most necessary ones. I can't believe you're making us eat here, Aunt Maria hissed, looking around the casual family restaurant with barely concealed disdain. What's wrong with it? I asked innocently. The portions are generous, and it's within everyone's new budget. Our first official family dinner under the new arrangement was going exactly as I'd expected. Haley sat quietly in her work clothes, exhausted from her first week of actual employment. Mum and Dad kept exchanging nervous glances, while Aunt Maria looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. I got my first paycheck today, Haley announced suddenly. It seemed small. That's because of taxes, I explained, and the automatic deductions for your repayment plan. Speaking of plans, Aunt Maria straightened up. I've been thinking about my consulting business. Your non-existent consulting business? I raised an eyebrow. The one you used to launder money? The table fell silent. Even the nearby diners seemed to pause. I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered fiercely. I pulled out my tablet. Really? Should we discuss the offshore accounts? The fake invoices? The reason you pushed so hard for Haley to get that money? Dad's fork clattered onto his plate. Maria, what is she talking about? Nothing. She's just trying to... I have proof, I cut in, of everything. Would you like me to share it with the IRS, or would you prefer to stick to our agreement? Aunt Maria's face crumpled. For the first time in my life, I saw her mask completely slip. I needed the money, she whispered. After Tom left, I couldn't let anyone know we were struggling. So, you sacrificed my future to maintain appearances? I leaned forward. Convinced my parents to give away my college fund to cover your tracks? Veronica, Mom reached for my hand. Please. No, Mom, it's time for the truth. I turned back to Aunt Maria. You didn't care about Haley's education. You needed that money to cover your debts before they caught up with you. And you used your own daughter to do it. Haley's head snapped up. What? Tell her, Aunt Maria. Tell her why you really pushed her to go to Harvard. Why you encouraged her to spend so extravagantly. Mom? Haley's voice cracked. Is that true? Aunt Maria burst into tears. I was trying to protect us. Our lifestyle, our status. Your lies, I finished. And now look where we all are. Mum and Dad nearly lost their house. Haley wasted 2 years. And me? I laughed softly. Well, I guess I should thank you. Thank her? Dad looked confused. If you hadn't taken my future away, I might never have built my own. I signaled the waiter. By the way, I'm buying the tech company that's trying to acquire us. The papers will be signed next week. Buying them? Patrick, who'd been quietly observing, sat up straighter. You never mentioned... Because some of us know how to keep business matters private, I said pointedly. The deal makes me the majority shareholder in both companies. Combined value, just north of $1 billion. Mum's water glass tipped over, spreading across the table. No one moved to clean it up. $1 billion, Haley whispered. Yes, built from scratch, while you were finding yourself in Thailand. I started dabbing at the spilled water with my napkin. But money isn't the point. Trust is. Family is. And you all failed spectacularly at both. We can change, Mom said quietly. We are changing. Yes, you are, because now you have no choice. I stood up. Aunt Maria, expect a visit from my forensic accountants tomorrow. Haley, you're getting promoted to project coordinator. If you can maintain perfect attendance for 3 months, Mom, Dad, the mortgage is officially paid off, but the financial oversight continues. And what do you get out of all this? Aunt Maria asked bitterly. I smiled, gathering my things. The satisfaction of watching you all learn the lessons you should have taught me. That actions have consequences, that hard work matters more than appearances, and that true family doesn't steal from each other. Where are you going? Dad called, as I headed for the door. Board meeting, I replied, without turning around. Some of us still have empires to run. Patrick caught up with me in the parking lot. That was brutal. That was necessary, I corrected, unlocking my car. Sometimes rock bottom has a basement, and they needed to see it. And now? I looked back at the restaurant window, where my family sat in stunned silence, their world permanently altered. Now they rebuild, I said. On my terms, with my rules, and maybe, just maybe, they'll learn something this time. And you? Patrick asked softly. What have you learned? I started the engine, smiling as my phone lit up with notifications about tomorrow's merger. That revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, piece by painful piece. Sign here. I slid the last document across my desk to Haley. This makes you a junior partner in the education division. She stared at the paper, then at me. Are you sure about this? Through my office window, I could see the city skyline, now dotted with buildings bearing my company's logo. On my desk sat a framed photo from last week's charity gala, my whole family, dressed modestly but professionally, actually smiling genuine smiles. You've earned it, I said. Perfect attendance for a year, completed all the financial literacy courses, built the youth outreach program from scratch. With your guidance, she added quietly. True, but you did the work. I leaned back in my chair. Something you never had to do before. A knock at the door interrupted us. Mom entered carrying spreadsheets. The quarterly family budget reports are ready for review. How's Aunt Maria doing? Haley asked. Better. Mom sat down. The therapy is helping. And the community service at the Women's Financial Literacy Center. She's actually making a difference. Amazing what happens when you channel manipulation into motivation, I mused. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. Meeting with the small business advisor went well. Ready to present my startup plan. Dad's really serious about this new venture, I showed them the message. He's different now, Mom said. We all are. She hesitated. Veronica, about the family dinner tonight. Don't worry, I smiled. We can have it at the country club. They both stared at me. Really? Haley asked. You've all stayed within budget for 6 months. Consider it a reward. I stood up. Besides, I bought the place last week. Got tired of their elitist membership policies. Mom shook her head. Sometimes I forget how powerful you've become. Not powerful, I corrected. Successful. There's a difference. Power is what Aunt Maria craved. Success is what I built. While making us build ourselves back up, Haley added. Exactly. I checked my watch. Speaking of building, don't you have a presentation to prepare for? Haley jumped up. Right, the new scholarship program. After she left, Mom lingered. I found something yesterday, cleaning out the attic. She placed a worn envelope on my desk, my old college acceptance letters. MIT, Georgia Tech, Stanford. She touched them gently. We were so wrong, Veronica. So terribly wrong. Yes, you were. I picked up the MIT letter. But look where it led. To you becoming a billionaire? To all of us learning what really matters. I opened my laptop, showing her the latest family financial report. Dad's credit score is now higher than it's ever been. Haley's savings account actually has savings in it. Aunt Maria is helping other women avoid the mistakes she made. And us? Mom asked softly. You and Dad finally understand the difference between enabling and supporting. I closed the laptop. That's worth more than any amount of money. Patrick appeared in the doorway. Ready for the board meeting? Almost. I turned to Mom. Will you be okay handling the family trust disbursements this quarter? She straightened proudly. I haven't made a single accounting error in 8 months. I know. I hugged her. That's why I'm letting you do it solo this time. After she left, Patrick sat down. You know, when this all started, I thought you were just out for revenge. So did I. I looked at the family photo again. But somewhere along the way, it became about reconstruction, about building something better from the ruins of what they destroyed. Including them, especially them. I gathered my files for the board meeting. They needed to fall apart to rebuild properly, to understand that success isn't about appearances or shortcuts. And now we're actually becoming the family we pretended to be. I smiled, just with better financial habits and a lot more honesty. Speaking of honesty, Patrick grinned. Wait until they hear about the education initiative you're launching. Free STEM education for 5,000 underprivileged students? I picked up my tablet. That's tomorrow's surprise, one step at a time. As we headed to the boardroom, I passed Haley, giving a tour to potential scholarship recipients. Aunt Maria was leading a financial literacy workshop in the conference room. Dad was in the innovation lab, sketching out his business plan. They weren't perfect, neither was I, but we were better, stronger, wiser, more genuine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting better, about turning betrayal into betterment, hurt into healing, and broken trust into something stronger than before. And as I walked into the boardroom, ready to change more lives through education, I realized that success really is the best revenge, especially when it lifts everyone up along the way.
The Christmas lights twinkled mockingly through the window, casting shadows across the diamond necklace in my sister's hands, the one that should have been my wedding deposit. My stomach churned as Kylie tilted it under the light, each facet catching and throwing tiny daggers of brightness across her face. It's absolutely perfect, she cooed, shooting our mother that conspiratorial smile I'd grown up watching from the sidelines. You always know exactly what I need. I gripped my coffee mug tighter, the ceramic burning against my palms. The pain felt good, something real to focus on besides the acid rising in my throat. 3 years I'd been saving that money, picking up extra shifts at the hospital, skipping vacations, living in that cramped studio apartment. Also, Jamie and I could have the wedding we'd dreamed about. Juliana, honey, you're being awfully quiet, Mom said, her voice dripping with that artificial sweetness she used when company was over. Isn't the necklace stunning on your sister? I forced my lips into what I hoped passed for a smile. Beautiful, I managed, the word tasting like metal in my mouth. The same way it had last week when I discovered the empty account, when Dad had stammered through his explanation about temporary loans and family emergencies. Kylie bounced over to the mirror, preening. It's exactly what I needed for the charity gala. You know Harrison's whole family will be there. She shot me a look over her shoulder. Sometimes you just have to invest in your future, right? My future, my savings, my trust shattered like the coffee mug I suddenly wanted to hurl across the room. But that's not what good daughters do. That's not what I do. Speaking of futures, Mom chirped, Jamie must be getting anxious about setting a date. You two have been engaged for what, 8 months now? The concern in her voice was as fake as the sympathy in her eyes when I'd confronted her about the money. These things happen in families, she'd said. Kylie just needs a little help right now. You understand, don't you, sweetie? You've always been our practical one. Practical, reliable, doormat. Actually, I said, setting my mug down with deliberate care, Jamie and I had an interesting conversation last night. The lie slid out smooth as silk.
surprising even me. About family and trust, and what we're willing to sacrifice for the people we love. Something flickered in Mom's eyes. Uncertainty, maybe even fear. Good. Oh? Her fingers worried at her pearl necklace, her tell when she's nervous. What kind of conversation? I stood gathering my coat. Just thinking about priorities, about who deserves our loyalty. I paused at the door, watching Kylie still admiring herself. And who doesn't? Juliana? Mom started, but I was already walking out, the screen door banging behind me with a satisfaction I hadn't known I was capable of feeling. The winter air hit my face like a slap, but I welcomed it. Better than the suffocating warmth of lies inside. My phone buzzed. Probably Jamie, wondering why I'd missed our lunch date. Sweet, honest Jamie, who believed the best in everyone. Who'd be horrified if he knew what I was considering. But as I stood there watching my breath cloud in the air, a plan was already crystallizing. Uncle Jacob would understand. He'd been through something similar with Mom and Dad years ago. The family black sheep, they called him. The bitter one who couldn't let go of grudges. Funny how perspective changes everything. I pulled out my phone, fingers trembling slightly as I pulled up his contact. 3 years since we'd spoken. Would he even take my call? Another text from Jamie lit up my screen. Missing you. Hope everything's okay with the family stuff. Remember, whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. I stared at his message, my throat tight. Sweet Jamie, who deserved a bride focused on their future, not orchestrating revenge, who believed in forgiveness and second chances. But as I glanced back at the window, at Kylie still preening in her stolen diamonds while Mom looked on adoringly, something hardened inside me. They'd stolen more than money. They'd stolen my trust, my place in the family, my belief in happy endings. Time to show them exactly what their practical daughter was capable of. I clicked on Uncle Jacob's number before I could change my mind. It rang twice before his gruff voice answered. Juliana, this is unexpected. Uncle Jacob, I said, watching another round of laughter erupt inside. Remember when you told me someday I'd understand why you cut ties with the family? Well, I think that day just arrived. The silence on the other end stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then, come over. We have a lot to discuss. I ended the call, a strange calm settling over me. Through the window, the Christmas lights continued their cheerful dance, but they didn't mock me anymore. They were lighting my way to war. Uncle Jacob's study smelled exactly as I remembered. Leather, pipe tobacco, and secrets. Late afternoon sun filtered through dusty windows, catching the brass handles of filing cabinets that lined the walls. I perched on the edge of his leather armchair, hands clasped to stop their shaking. So, he said, settling behind his massive oak desk, they finally showed their true colors. The metal taste was back in my mouth. They emptied my account. $38,000. My voice cracked. For a necklace, for Kylie. He didn't look surprised, just tired. Your mother always did have a weakness for shiny things. And your sister? He trailed off, picking up a letter opener and turning it in his hands. Well, the apple didn't fall far from that particular tree. I confronted them, I said. Dad just stammered excuses about family obligations. Mom acted like I was being selfish for even questioning it. The memory of her dismissive wave still made my chest tight. But that's not even the worst part. Jacob raised an eyebrow. I found the paperwork. They've been planning this for months. The account wasn't just emptied. They'd been slowly transferring money out since summer. Small amounts at first, then larger ones. My fingers dug into the chair's leather. They thought I wouldn't notice because I trusted them to help manage the wedding fund. Ah. Jacob set down the letter opener. And I'm guessing this wasn't the first time? What do you mean? He pulled open a drawer, extracting a thick manila folder. Your college fund, Juliana, the one your grandmother set up before she died. The room suddenly felt too small. What college fund? $50,000, earmarked specifically for your education. He slid several documents across the desk. Your mother convinced the trustees to release it early, said it was for an emergency medical procedure. His mouth twisted. Interesting timing, that release. Right around when Kylie needed that down payment on her first condo. I stared at the papers, my grandmother's familiar signature swimming before my eyes. All those student loans I was still paying off. All those nights I'd worked through college thinking we just couldn't afford more. Why? My voice failed. I tried again. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? His eyes were kind, but knowing. Back then, you still thought they hung the moon. Besides, I was already the family pariah after exposing your father's creative accounting at the firm. Nobody was listening to crazy Uncle Jacob anymore. The truth of it hit like a physical blow. I'd avoided him for years, believing their whispers about his bitterness, his jealousy, his lies. All while they'd been systematically stealing my future. My phone buzzed, another text from Jamie. Getting worried. Please call me. Jacob watched me silence it. Does he know? No. I rubbed my temples. He'd tell me to take the high road, to focus on our future, not the past. And is that what you want to do? The question hung in the air. Through the window, I could see the sun setting, painting the sky the same color as Kylie's stolen diamonds. No, I said finally. I want them to feel what I'm feeling. I want them to understand what it's like to have everything taken by someone you trusted. My voice hardened. I want them to pay. Jacob nodded slowly. Then you should know there's more. Much more. He stood, walking to one of the filing cabinets. Your father's firm, his position on the hospital board, your mother's charity foundation. It's all built on quicksand. Years of creative accounting, misappropriated funds, favors called in to cover tracks. My head spun. How do you know all this? Because I've been gathering evidence since they forced me out. He pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. Originally for my own protection, but now... He held it out. Maybe it's time this information found a better use. I stared at the folder, understanding the choice it represented. Take it, and there was no going back. No more being the good daughter, the understanding sister, the practical one who sacrificed without complaint. My phone buzzed again. Jamie's face lit up the screen, his smile warm and trusting. Everything I was about to risk. If we do this, I said, reaching for the folder, we do it smart. No mistakes, no warnings. The paper felt heavy in my hands, weighted with possibility. They need to feel completely safe right up until the moment everything crashes down. Uncle Jacob's smile was grim. Then we should start with the charity gala, the one where Kylie's planning to debut her new necklace. I thought of my sister's smirk in the mirror, my mother's false concern, my father's weak excuses. 3 decades of being the family doormat, compressed into a single, clarifying moment of rage. Yes, I said, opening the folder. Let's start there. The charity gala invitation felt heavy in my hands, gold lettering catching the morning light. 2 weeks of planning had led to this moment, but my fingers still trembled as I dialed the number. Harrison speaking. His voice was exactly as pompous as I remembered from Kylie's endless stories about her perfect boyfriend. Hi, Harrison. This is Juliana, Kylie's sister. I forced warmth into my tone. I'm helping Mom with the gala seating arrangements, and I wanted to confirm something about your family's preferences. Oh, yes, of course. He brightened immediately. Kylie mentioned you'd taken on more foundation responsibilities. Wonderful to see you getting involved. I swallowed hard against the bitterness rising in my throat. My involvement had always been behind the scenes, stuffing envelopes, arranging flowers, being the reliable one while Kylie sparkled in the spotlight. Actually, I said, I had some concerns about the Foundation's financial reports, some discrepancies I noticed while organizing the donor files. The silence on the other end stretched just a beat too long. I'm not sure I follow. Maybe I should speak with your father directly, since he's on the board of directors. No! The sharp edge in his voice confirmed Uncle Jacob's intel. Harrison's father had been helping cover my parents' creative accounting for years. I mean, I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. Why don't we discuss it at tomorrow's pre-gala meeting? Perfect. I ended the call and turned to Jacob, who'd been listening intently. You were right. He's definitely worried. Of course he is. Jacob shuffled through some papers. The question is, will he tell your sister? He won't risk it. Kylie can't keep secrets to save her life. I'd learned that lesson early, watching her trade my confidences for our mother's approval. He'll try to handle it quietly. Then we proceed to phase 2. Jacob handed me another document. But first you should know, Jamie called me this morning. My heart stuttered. What? He's worried. Says you've been distant, canceling plans. Jacob's eyes were gentle but firm. He asked if I knew what was going on with you and the family. What did you tell him? Nothing, but Juliana. He leaned forward. He loves you. Maybe it's time to... No. The word came out sharper than I intended. Jamie believes in second chances, in talking things through. He'd try to stop this. And would that be so wrong? I stood, pacing to the window. Outside, early spring flowers were pushing through the soil, stubborn, determined little things fighting their way toward light. You don't understand, I said finally. Jamie sees the best in everyone. He'd tell me to forgive them, to focus on our future together. But every time I close my eyes, I see Kylie wearing my wedding fund around her neck. I see Mom's dismissive wave, Dad's weak excuses. My voice cracked. I see 30 years of being the good daughter. And where did it get me? So, you're willing to risk losing him over this? The question hit like a physical blow. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, remembering Jamie's face the night he proposed. His absolute certainty that we'd face everything together. My phone buzzed, a text from Kylie. Emergency! Harrison acting weird about gala, need to talk. It's starting, I said, showing Jacob the message. She has no idea he's panicking about the foundation's finances. And when he distances himself to protect his family's interests, she'll be devastated. The satisfaction in my voice surprised even me. Just in time for her big moment at the gala. Jacob studied me for a long moment. You know, revenge changes people, not always in ways they expect. I'm counting on it. I picked up my purse, checking my lipstick in a nearby mirror. Kylie wants to talk? Fine. Time to play the supportive sister one last time. But as I reached for the door, Jacob called out softly. Your grandmother used to say you had her heart, gentle but strong. He paused. She also said sometimes the gentlest hearts, when broken, become the most dangerous. I thought of the diamond necklace, of stolen futures and shattered trust, of Jamie's faith in happy endings. Maybe that's exactly what they deserve, I said, and stepped out into the spring sunshine. My phone buzzed again. Jamie this time. Miss you. Dinner tonight? I stared at his message, thumb hovering over the reply button. Every lie I told him carved another piece from my heart. But I thought of the documents in Jacob's office, of years of systematic betrayal hidden behind family loyalty. Can't tonight? I typed back. Family emergency. At least that part wasn't a lie. Kylie's favorite coffee shop hadn't changed, all gleaming copper and overpriced lattes. I found her hunched over a table in the corner, her designer handbag occupying the chair meant for me. Classic Kylie. Thank God you're here, she said, not looking up from her phone. Harrison's being totally weird, like canceled our dinner plans weird. I moved her bag and sat down, noting the diamond necklace still prominently displayed against her cashmere sweater. My wedding fund, sparkling in the afternoon sun. Maybe he's stressed about the gala, I offered, stirring my coffee. Dad mentioned the foundation's been under extra scrutiny lately. Her head snapped up. What? Since when do you and Dad discuss foundation business? Oh, you know. I shrugged. Just trying to be more involved, like Mom's always wanted. Kylie's eyes narrowed. Something flickered across her face. Doubt? Fear? Right. Because you're suddenly interested in the foundation after years of avoiding it. People change. I met her gaze steadily. Sometimes they surprise you. Yeah, well... She fidgeted with the necklace. Speaking of surprises, Mom told me about your little outburst the other day, about the wedding fund. Did she tell you where the money went? It was an investment in my future. Her chin lifted defiantly, Harrison's family has connections. This gala could change everything for me. And my future? My wedding? Oh, please. She rolled her eyes. Like you and Jamie need some fancy ceremony. You guys are basically married already. Besides, you're good at making do with less. It's kind of your thing. The casual cruelty of it stole my breath. All those years of hand-me-downs, of scaled-back dreams, of watching Kylie get everything while I learned to want nothing, distilled into one dismissive statement. My phone buzzed. Jamie again. Haven't seen you in days. Everything okay? Kylie noticed. Trouble in paradise? Actually, I said, an idea forming. Jamie's been asking questions about the foundation, the family finances. The color drained from her face. What did you tell him? Nothing yet. But he works in financial law, you know. He notices things. You can't... She grabbed my hand, her nails digging in. Juliana, promise me you won't say anything. The gala's too important. Harrison's father will be there, and if there's even a hint of impropriety... I gently extracted my hand. Of course not. We're family, right? Relief flooded her features. She hadn't even noticed the edge in my voice, too wrapped up in her own concerns. Typical. God, you're the best. She stood, gathering her things. I have to run. Final dress fitting. But we should do this more often. Maybe after the gala? I watched her leave, touching the coffee cup she'd left for me to clear away. Same old pattern. Kylie creates chaos. I clean up the mess. But not this time. My phone buzzed again. Jamie. Coming over tonight, we need to talk. The message sent ice through my veins. I called Jacob. He knows something, I said when he answered. Jamie's coming over to talk. Are you sure you want to continue with this? Jacob's voice was careful. There's still time to step back. I touched my neck where the phantom weight of my grandmother's pearls should have been. Another inheritance that had mysteriously found its way to Kylie. No, but I need to move faster. I took a deep breath. The documents you showed me about Dad's creative accounting, send them to me. All of them. Juliana, they're going to lose everything anyway once this comes out. At least this way, I control when and how it happens. A long pause. And Jamie? I thought of his face, how it would look when he realized what I'd done. How similar it might be to my expression when I'd discovered the empty account. Sometimes, I said, you have to break something completely before you can rebuild it. Your grandmother used to say something similar, Jacob mused. Right before she cut your mother out of her will. I sat up straighter. What? Oh. His voice turned careful. You didn't know? The college fund wasn't the only thing your mother manipulated. The entire inheritance. Well, that's a conversation for another time. The coffee shop suddenly felt too small, too bright. Another betrayal, deeper than I'd imagined. Send me everything, I said. Not just the foundation documents. Everything. Are you sure? Once you know certain things? I'm sure. I watched Kylie's abandoned coffee cup, still leaving rings on the table. It's time everyone's truth came to light. I ended the call, staring at Jamie's message. Tonight would change everything, one way or another. Good thing I'd always been good at making do with less. Jamie was already waiting at my apartment when I arrived, his familiar silhouette framed by my kitchen window. The sight of him, hands in pockets, shoulders tense, made my heart ache with everything I was about to lose. Your mother called me, he said without turning around. 3 words, and my carefully constructed plan began to crumble. What did she say? I kept my voice neutral, setting my keys down with deliberate care. She's worried about you, says you've been acting strange, asking questions about the foundation. Now he turned, his eyes searching my face. She thinks you're having some kind of breakdown over the wedding fund situation. A laugh bubbled up, harsh, unfamiliar. Of course she does. Easier than admitting what they did. Jules. He stepped closer, reaching for my hand. I let him take it, wondering if he could feel my pulse racing. I know you're hurt. But this obsession with revenge, with exposing family secrets, this isn't you. Maybe it is now. I pulled away, moving to the kitchen counter where Jacob's documents lay hidden in my bag. Maybe this is who I've always been, just waiting for the right moment. No. His voice was firm. The Juliana I know believes in forgiveness, in fixing things, not destroying them. The Juliana you know was a doormat. The words tasted like freedom. She let them take everything, her college fund, her inheritance, her wedding dreams, all while smiling and being the good daughter. Jamie went very still. What inheritance? Too late, I realized my mistake. I hadn't meant to reveal that part yet. It doesn't matter. I turned away, but he caught my arm. It matters if it's driving you to do something you can't take back. His grip was gentle but insistent. Talk to me, Jules. Please. The concern in his voice nearly broke me. I thought of all our plans, our shared dreams of a simple wedding and a life built on trust. How had we ended up here? My grandmother left me everything, I said finally. The house, the investments, all of it. Mom somehow convinced the trustees to transfer it all before I turned 25, before I even knew it existed. How much? Almost $2 million. His sharp intake of breath filled the silence, but that's not even the worst part. I pulled away, retrieving the documents from my bag. Look at these. Years of systematic fraud at the foundation. Dad's been embezzling money, Mom's been covering it up, and they used my inheritance to hide the evidence. Jamie took the papers, his lawyer's eyes scanning quickly. Jules, this is serious. If this gets out, they'll lose everything. I watched his face carefully. The foundation, their reputations, probably their freedom. And that's what you want? I want justice. No, he set the papers down. You want revenge. There's a difference. Is there? I moved to the window, watching the city lights blur through unexpected tears. They stole my future, Jamie, multiple times, used me while favoring Kylie, and now they're worried about me. Now they call my fiancé to intervene. Because they love you. They love what I represent. The reliable one. The one who never causes problems. I turned back to him. But I'm done being that person. Even if it costs you everything? He stepped closer. Even if it costs us? The moment stretched between us, heavy with possibility and loss. I have to do this, I whispered. With or without you. Jamie closed his eyes briefly, pain etching lines around his mouth. When he opened them, something had changed. Then I need to show you something. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through emails. Your mother didn't just call me, she sent me this. I took the phone, reading quickly, then again, slower, as the implications sank in. No, I breathed. This can't be right. I verified it myself. His voice was gentle. The foundation isn't just your parents' fraud. Your Uncle Jacob, he's been manipulating everything from the beginning, including you. The room tilted sideways. I grabbed the counter for support, staring at the evidence on the screen. Jacob's signature on documents dated years before his supposed exile from the family. His careful orchestration of events that led to his discovery of the fraud. He wanted revenge too, Jamie said softly. He just needed someone else to take the fall. My phone buzzed. Jacob, right on cue. Everything set for tomorrow? I stared at his message, remembering his careful guidance, his perfectly timed revelations, the way he'd stoked my anger while positioning himself as my only ally. Jules? Jamie touched my shoulder. What are you going to do? I looked at the documents scattered across my counter. Weapons meant to destroy my family, handed to me by a man I'd trusted completely. I'm going to make someone pay, I said. Just not who I originally planned. Uncle Jacob's study felt different now. The leather and pipe tobacco scent that had once seemed comforting now felt cloying, artificial, like everything else about him. I sat in my usual chair, Jamie's evidence burning a hole in my phone, and watched him shuffle papers with practiced concern. The gala's tomorrow, he said, not looking up. Everything's in place. Once Harrison's father sees these documents. Did you kill her? The question cut through the room like a blade. His hands stilled. Excuse me? Grandmother. My voice was steady despite my racing heart. Did you kill her, or just manipulate her into changing the will? The silence stretched for exactly 3 seconds before he smiled. Not his usual warm uncle smile, but something colder, more calculated. Interesting theory. He leaned back, studying me. What makes you ask? The timing. I met his gaze. She changes her will, making me the sole heir instead of Mom. 2 weeks later, she dies in her sleep. Then you spend years orchestrating this elaborate revenge scheme, using me as your puppet. Not a puppet. He spread his hands. A partner, someone equally wronged by this family's corruption. Except you're the corruption, aren't you? I pulled out my phone, showing him the emails Jamie had found. You've been embezzling from the foundation for years, long before Dad got involved. You just needed someone else to take the blame when it all fell apart. His expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. And you believe your precious Jamie about this? The man who'd say anything to protect your parents? I believe the evidence, the same way you taught me to. I stood, moving toward the door. It's over, Uncle Jacob. I'm going to the police. Sit down, Juliana. The command in his voice froze me mid-step. When I turned, he was holding a small revolver. Really? I forced a calm I didn't feel. This is your solution? You're so much like her, he said, almost sadly. Your grandmother had that same righteous certainty, that same inability to see the bigger picture. Did she figure it out too? Is that why she had to die? She was going to ruin everything. He gestured to the chair with the gun. Sit, please. I sat, mind racing. Jamie knew where I was. We'd planned for this. But how long before he realized something was wrong? You know what's interesting? Jacob continued conversationally. Everyone thinks revenge is about anger, but it's really about patience. Years of careful planning, of earning trust, of waiting for the perfect moment. He smiled. Your parents and sister were just bonus players. You were always the key. Because I inherited everything. Because you were innocent. His voice hardened. The perfect victim. The selfless daughter everyone took advantage of. Who would question you turning against them after what they did? My phone buzzed. Jacob's eyes flicked to it. That'll be Jamie, I said. He's expecting me. Then you should text him. Tell him everything's fine, that you're staying to help me prepare for tomorrow. I pulled out my phone slowly, deliberately, opened my messages. You won't get away with this, I said, buying time. The police. We'll find a tragic murder-suicide, the unstable daughter, driven to desperation by family betrayal, confronting her equally unstable uncle. Such a shame, really. My fingers shook as I typed, running late, still with Uncle Jacob. His smile widened as I hit send. Good girl, now! The study door burst open. Jamie and 2 police officers rushed in, weapons drawn. Drop it! One officer shouted as Jacob swung the gun toward them. Everything happened at once. The crack of gunfire, Jacob falling, Jamie pulling me behind him, my phone clattering to the floor, screen still showing the distress code we'd arranged, still with Uncle Jacob, the signal that meant I was in danger. Are you okay? Jamie's hands were on my face, checking for injuries. I came as soon as I got your message. I nodded, watching the officers handcuff my uncle. He was laughing softly, blood seeping from his shoulder wound. You really are just like her, he called to me. She tried to be clever, too. Thought she could outsmart me. The difference is, I said, my voice shaking, I had help. She died alone. His laughter cut off abruptly. In the sudden silence, one officer read him his rights, while the other bagged the revolver as evidence. The documents, I remembered suddenly. All the evidence of his fraud is safe, Jamie assured me. The police have everything. Your parents, the foundation, it's all going to come out now. I leaned against him, watching them lead Jacob away. Tomorrow's gala would still bring destruction, just not the kind any of us had planned. Take me home, I whispered to Jamie. Please. But as we left the study, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. Jacob's words echoed in my head. Revenge isn't about anger, it's about patience. And somewhere in the gathering darkness, Kylie's diamond necklace still sparkled with my stolen dreams. The gala ballroom glittered like a fever dream. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, and 300 of the city's elite pretending the world wasn't about to shatter. I adjusted my black dress, borrowed from Krista since my savings were still wrapped around Kylie's neck, and watched my sister work the room. She hadn't heard about Jacob yet. None of them had. You don't have to do this, Jamie murmured beside me, his hand warm against my back. The police have everything they need. I need to see their faces. I sipped champagne I couldn't taste. When they realize what's coming... Across the room, Mom was holding court with her charity board members, elegant in midnight blue. Dad stood nearby, laughing too loudly at someone's joke. They looked so normal, so innocent, just like Jacob had. Juliana! Kylie's voice cut through my thoughts. She practically bounced over, diamonds catching the light. You actually came, and you look... nice. The familiar dismissal barely stung now. Wouldn't miss it, especially since Uncle Jacob helped plan everything so carefully. Something flickered in her eyes. Speaking of Jacob, have you heard from him? He's not answering his phone. Oh, he's been detained, I smiled. But don't worry, everything he planned for tonight will still happen. Before she could respond, feedback squealed through the speakers. Harrison's father took the stage, looking distinctly uncomfortable. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention... I checked my watch, right on schedule. What's happening? Kylie grabbed my arm. Harrison's been acting weird all day, and now his father looks... guilty? I gently removed her hand. Maybe he's thinking about all those foundation documents he helped falsify, the ones the police are reviewing right now. The color drained from her face. What did you do? Me? Nothing. I took another sip of champagne. Uncle Jacob did most of it. Well, until he tried to shoot me yesterday. What? Turns out he was the real criminal all along. Had been stealing from the foundation for years, setting up Dad to take the fall. I watched her process this. Of course, Dad's not innocent either. None of you are. On stage, Harrison's father was stumbling through an announcement about regulatory investigations and temporary suspension of foundation activities. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. You knew, Kylie whispered. You knew this was coming and you didn't warn us? Like you warned me about stealing my wedding fund? The words tasted like victory. Or about Mom stealing my inheritance? That was different. We're family. Exactly. I turned to face her fully. We're family, and you all betrayed me. Multiple times. Across the room, Dad was backing away from his business associates, their faces hardening as phones buzzed with breaking news alerts. Mom had gone completely still, watching me with dawning horror. The police will be here soon, I said quietly. To arrest Dad for fraud. Mom too, probably. They'll want to question you about the necklace, stolen funds and all that. Kylie's hands flew to her throat. You can't, I didn't... No, I finished. Neither did I, about any of it. Funny how that works. Her face crumpled. For a moment, I saw my little sister again, the one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who once drew me a whole book of pictures titled Best Sister Ever. Please, she whispered, help me fix this. The request hit me like a physical blow. How many times had I put myself last to fix her problems, to protect her from consequences? Jamie's hand found mine, squeezing gently, reminding me I wasn't that person anymore. I can't fix this, I said, and I won't try. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Around us, the party dissolved into chaos as people rushed for exits, phones pressed to ears. Mom was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks as Dad tried to pull her toward a side door. The necklace, I said to Kylie. Take it off. What? Take it off. It was bought with my money, my future. I held out my hand. Give it back. Her fingers trembled as she unclasped it. The diamonds felt heavy in my palm, still warm from her skin. What will you do with it? She asked as police burst through the doors. I thought of Jacob in his cell, of all his careful plans backfiring, of patience and revenge and the cost of both. I'm going to sell it, I said, watching officers approach our parents. And have the wedding I always wanted, the one where none of you are invited. The diamonds sparkled as I dropped them into my clutch, no longer a weight around anyone's neck. Behind me, Jamie wrapped his arms around my waist, and together we watched justice arrive in blue uniforms and silver handcuffs. Some things, it turns out, are worth more than family. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should in spring. I sat watching the sunrise paint the city gold, the same color as my grandmother's locket in my hands. The lawyer had given it to me yesterday, found in a safety deposit box with a letter I still couldn't bring myself to read. Thought I'd find you here? Krista settled beside me, offering coffee. Big day. Sentencing day. I traced the locket's worn edges. Shouldn't you be at work? My best friend's family is going to prison. Work can wait. She bumped my shoulder. Jamie's worried about you. I know. I'd left him sleeping in our apartment, unable to face his gentle concern. He thinks I should feel worse about all this. Do you? Before I could answer, a familiar figure appeared at the bottom of the steps. Kylie, looking smaller without her designer clothes and diamond accessories. She spotted me and started climbing. Security knows you're not supposed to be here, I called out. She kept coming. I had to see you, before... She gestured vaguely at the courthouse. Everything. I didn't move as she sat on my other side, careful to leave space between us. Nice outfit, I said. The department store blazer was a far cry from her usual wardrobe. Harrison's mother bought it. For appearances. She laughed hollowly. Apparently, I need to look appropriately repentant when my parents are sentenced. And are you? Repentant? She plucked at the blazer's sleeve. I found grandmother's journals, in Mom's study, after the arrests. Her voice shook. She wrote about you all the time. How special you were. How much you reminded her of herself. She knew what Mom was planning with the inheritance. She was going to stop it. Until Jacob stopped her instead. The locket felt heavier suddenly. She left you a letter. Kylie's eyes fixed on the locket. In there. I sat up straighter. How do you know that? Because she left me one too. In my journal. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket. She knew Juliana. She knew exactly what I would become. The spoiled one, the taker. She tried to warn me. My fingers trembled on the locket's clasp. And did you listen? Would you believe me if I said I'm trying now? Before I could respond, more cars pulled up. Media vans, their satellite dishes reaching toward the brightening sky. Soon they'd be setting up cameras, waiting to capture our parents' arrival for sentencing. I should go, Kylie said, standing. Harrison's mother doesn't want me talking to you. Because I ruined everything? Because you were right. She handed me her letter. Here. Maybe knowing she saw it all coming will help somehow. I watched her descend the steps, shoulders straight despite the cameras starting to point her way. When she reached the bottom, she turned back. I really did love the necklace, she called up, but I loved being your sister more. I just forgot that somewhere along the way. She disappeared into a waiting car as Krista squeezed my hand. You okay? I opened the locket. Inside, just as Kylie said, was a carefully folded letter. But there was something else, too. A small key I recognized from childhood visits to grandmother's house. To the garden shed where she kept her most precious things. The shed that, according to the estate papers Jacob showed me, had been empty when she died. My hands shook as I unfolded her letter, reading quickly. Then again, slower, as understanding dawned. Oh my God. I stood suddenly. We have to go. Now. What? Where? The house. Grandmother's house. I was already moving, pulling out my phone to call Jamie. She knew everything. About Jacob, about Mom, all of it. She left evidence in the garden shed. Real evidence, not Jacob's manipulated version. But the house was sold after her death. I smiled, remembering summer afternoons helping grandmother tend her roses. How she'd always said gardens held the best secrets. No, I said. The house sale was faked. Another piece of Jacob's manipulation. Which means... The shed is still there, Krista finished, realization dawning. With whatever she left for you. More cars were arriving now. Soon our parents would face justice, but maybe not the version Jacob had orchestrated. Maybe something truer, cleaner. Something worthy of grandmother's faith in me. I clutched the key, feeling its edges bite into my palm. Some things are worth more than family, I'd told Kylie at the gala. But maybe some family is worth more than revenge. Coming? I asked Krista, already knowing her answer. Together we left the courthouse steps, heading toward a truth that had been waiting in a garden shed all along. Patient as growing things, strong as roots breaking through stone.